Here we go. Welcome, everybody. We got ourselves a new location. I don't like the lighting on this, but we'll fix that next time. Anyways, for those of you guys who don't know me, my name's Frankie Fihn. I wrote 2 best-selling books, have grown 3 of my own agencies to 100 plus clients, and I'm here every Monday answering your questions, helping you guys build this crazy old business, this agency owner madness, which is why I love you guys and show up every week and do this. Quick little announcement just before we get rock and rolling. I have an event upcoming in Los Angeles. It's for those of you guys who want to sell your stuff with video. So we're going to say live in LA. We're going to just put a link to that. If you guys are interested, you can check that out. But we're doing it workshop style, which is a lot of events. You know, you get a bunch of speakers. It's cool, but you leave with a to-do list, not a done list. I want you guys to leave with a done list, not a to-do list. So that's kind of the purpose of that. If you guys are interested, I put a link in the comments. Otherwise, let's get into the good shit. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Fihn proudly brings you our weekly Q&A. With the golden dad guns, the greatest of all time, the man they call the man, His Holiness the Dude, 170 pounds of pure steel and sex appeal, the man who watched too much wrestling as a kid. You know, it's funny though, I haven't watched wrestling in 20 years, but I love that shit. When I was 2000, Stone Cold Steve Austin. There's actually, I don't know if you guys went through this, but there was a period of probably about 2 years where I saw a kid get a Stone Cold stunner every single day at school. Every single day, somebody gave a stunner. So you guys can relate to that. Let's get into it. First, we got Shayne, who's up. Says, 2 days ago, I made a demo AI real estate video for a realtor in Miami. Just like Frankie Fihn said, build a connection first, offer them some sort of value. Created the video with their listing, and they said they were so amazed. Now they want me to do it for them. It takes me 5 hours to make it after editing and color grading, etc. What would this be worth? Is this just a rough demo I made him to earn a quick dollar? I just said, saw your listing on Zillow, created this for you. You can use it for free. I think you'd love it. Love to have a chat with you. I think it will shift my focus to sell this for a while, make money to join the Loom video course. Don't know how much to sell this for with Final After Effects and all that stuff. I would tell you, dude, if you could templatize this so that this could be repeated, you could probably scale this really, really big and have, like virtual assistants actually do the editing. If you can train somebody for here's how you actually do the editing and all that. Having said that, what do you price it at? I never know the first time you price anything what you're supposed to do. And I think anybody who tells you otherwise is lying. A lot of it depends on what the market will bear, what they're willing to do. So like the honest to God's truth is you fucking try some shit and you find out. Like that's the honest. And then the more times you do it, you'll know that, hey, 175 per video is too much, but 125 is just fine. You don't know those things until you repeatedly sell the same thing over and over, and you kind of just, you try it. So for me, like I would try 1,000 a month, and if people said yes, then the next time I might try 1,500, and if they still said yes, then I would try 2,000, and you know, handle it in increments until somebody starts saying, hey, that's too much money, and then you back it off a little. That's how you generally want to do that. But I think it's a really smart way to approach people, by the way. I always say, like, you know, like growing up, or you know, actually, maybe not growing up. A better example is when I lived in Germany and you got invited to any sort of social gathering, it was considered a major faux pas to show up empty-handed. You had to bring shit, always. If you got invited and it wasn't like a last-minute invite, you had to bring a bottle of wine, a piece of cake. You had to show up with a gift, right? I want you guys to think about, like, outreach and messaging people the same way. If you're showing up with a gift, life is going to be easier than if you're showing up with a take going, do you want to jump on a call with me and buy my shit, which is what most people are doing. So nice work, Shayne. Drake says, hey, what's up? I just started following you. I run an agency for contractors, but I'm having trouble. Should I target a specific niche or just contractors? I would target a specific niche, and I'll tell you why. 2 reasons. One, it'll make your messaging stronger. The, hey, I help any contractor anywhere to do stuff is not nearly as powerful as, hey, I can help you get fence jobs, right? Like it's clear, it's more specific. And then also when you go to scale that and like fulfill on that, it's easier to reuse campaigns. Like say you run Facebook ads or you run a GHL like database reactivation. If you do it for a fence guy, and then you go get the second client and the third client and the fourth client, you can reuse the same shit you used for the last guy, which makes scaling it easier because you kind of start done before you get the client. So that's the reason to niche down: stronger messaging, more repeatability on the back end. And the reason I say that, because a lot of times people, they obsess about this niche thing and think if I get the wrong one, I'm screwed. And they misunderstand why people like me are telling that. It's because I want you to build a conveyor belt of repeatability, not because this niche has money and that one doesn't, which is what a lot of people think I'm trying to tell them. Deacon Nick says, "Hey, all, what's up, brother? Just discovered you a week ago. Loving the content. I do web design, SEO, GBP optimization for only electricians in states. Is there a Loom video course?" There is a Loom video course. There's also a free training, just so you know, on this channel for how to do it. And just so you know, the when you sell the things, you know, like you want to sell to electricians, what you need to figure out is A, what problems they have that they're trying to solve, and B, what outcomes they're trying to move to, which is usually, by the way, for most of you guys, because most of us work with local service businesses in particular, the outcome is the types of people they want, right? So like I used to work a lot with attorneys. Like they don't value all cases equally, right? Hey, I can get you a traffic ticket is not as valuable as I can get you $100,000 motorcycle accident, right? So all things being equal, if I'm going to get them an outcome, it's not just more cases or more leads or more patients or more jobs, what everybody thinks. It's like, I'll get you the valuable ones. I call those the $100 bills, and they almost always make your service more valuable. And they're not really that much harder. It's like usually you just run it at different keywords, or you aim your ads a little bit differently, but it's not like you're fundamentally doing something different. Yo, what's up, Frankie? How you doing? Shayne, I was just actually talking about your video. I don't know if you saw that or if you got in a second late. Let's see. I got Paul says, Frankie, I want to do GHL automations in the medical niche, but I heard the front desk is usually the biggest bottleneck. Calling the leads is very important. What should I do? I've kind of harped on this a lot, but I'm probably going to harp on it every single episode of this because I think the way most people start an agency is backwards, and it makes it hard. And the reason they make it hard is because they start with selfish questions only. Okay, so we all have selfish reasons to be in business. Like, what the fuck? Like, why would you want to work online if you didn't have selfish reasons? I don't want to work for anyone else. I want to set my own hours. I want to make as much money as I want. I want to be able to do it from anywhere in the world, right? Those are very fucking valid reasons. But you also need some market-driven reasons, which are, hey, this problem is underserved. Not enough people are helping with this. Nobody else was solving this. So what ends up happening is almost always people start with self-serving questions and they come up with tools. So they say to themselves shit like, I wonder what I could do to make some money. Maybe I could do some GHL. Maybe I could do some web design. Maybe I could do this. And what happens is they create things that fundamentally nobody really wants, which just makes it hard. It just makes that shit harder than it needs to be, for sure. And the place you want to be coming from is like, this is needed. So like I posted in here a bunch. I'm going to post it probably every chat, every time we do one of these for the rest of the year. But here's the deal. You need to do the market research. And the way to do that is not, so what most people do is they start with tools. But what I think is a better way is start with people. Who do I want to do this for? In other words, your niche. And then go, what problems do they have? And then you go, what tools solve those problems? So I'll give you an example, right? Like I had a plastic surgeon tell me one time he wanted to get mommy makeover patients because those were like high value patients and he actually made some margin on it. So then we came up with the idea, like, let's make a website related to mommy makeovers and let's do some SEO related to mommy makeover keywords. And he fucking loved that shit. But we started with the problem, which is, hey, most of the patients I get don't actually make me any money because of overhead and all these expenses I have. How about you bring me some of the bigger ones? And then I went, okay, a website would do that. SEO would do that. You know, before and after pictures would do that. Google reviews would do that. And so I brought in the tools after I knew what they were trying to do. If I had just started with the tools, you're going to be off by what I call, it's the 10-degree shift. The difference between I'll do website SEO and reviews is not nearly as powerful as I'll do websites, SEO, and reviews to get you mommy makeover patients, because they have some sort of high value thing. Every niche has it. I call it the $100 bill. It's like their more expensive thing or their easiest thing to fulfill. They want more of those and not just necessarily more of anyone. And most agencies just assume they want more of anyone. So they'll go more leads, more sales, more customers, more clients, more patients, more jobs. And then they start building tools to go do that. So my thing is, yes, the front desk is a problem, but I wouldn't start with that. Start with what they tell you the problem is and then work backwards. If for no other reason, then your messaging will be more on point. Because if you come up with the idea first without them, you're gonna have a hard time selling it, because you won't even be able to explain it to them. If you start with the problem, you can almost be like, you know how this thing happens over here? Well, I built this thing to help you solve it. And it really is that simple. And most of them are, most businesses are problem aware, not solution aware, just so you know. So we have to be able to hit them with their problems. All right. Let me just get back to the questions here. So I hope that helps, Paul. Elijah says, I started a white label AI visibility service to layer on top of SEO. I'm wondering, what are creative ways if you guys have successfully grown your agencies by using leverage and strategic partnerships? Okay. So for those of you guys who are not familiar with strategic partnerships, I wrote a post on this the other day. I'm doing a lot of hand activity over here. Hand activity. All right. So Jay Abraham says that any company that is below $10 million a year should not be trying to market to get people one-to-one. They should be marketing to partners that can bring them a whole bunch of people. And this is true in so many industries. You'll see this, like there's a lot of industries where these are kind of just natural and obvious. So like one example is real estate agents and mortgage brokers. Mortgage brokers need the agents and the agents need the brokers, right? Because if you're selling houses, you need somebody to finance them. If you finance them, you need somebody who can help your clients get the houses they want, right? So they tend to like naturally sort of partner up, okay? So those partnerships are available in every industry. And I think most people misunderstand how much better this is than the one that's taught in our space, how anybody can do it with a little bit of focus and persistence. And it costs nothing. It costs nothing. Right? It's totally free. So I'll give you an example of when I first discovered the power of getting in other people's audiences. So I tell a story that kind of illustrates this, but I was 12, 13 years old, and I was looking for a way to make money. I flip open the newspaper. That's what you did back in those days. And I was just looking for anything to make money. And back in where I grew up, you got to get like a social insurance number, it's called in Canada. And you can't get one till you're 15, and you can only legally get a job with a social insurance number. Ergo, you can't legally get a job till you're 15. So I'm like 12, 13, something like that. Let's call it 12. And I'm trying to make money. And in there, I saw a thing that said sell chocolate bars door to door. So we did 5 to 8 hours a day of knocking on doors, one-to-one, which is kind of like cold outreach as people talk about it now. Like that's how everybody says you got to make money. So we did it. We knocked on doors. And by the way, you carry this heavy ass cooler. It was actually kind of grueling because most of the shift is spent walking and carrying heavy chocolate. It's actually only like 10% of it is selling. 90% of it is walking and lifting. But eventually if you do that, you will sell some chocolate bars. But like once a month, our manager would drive to the local grocery store. It was a chain called Zehrs, still exists. But, if you guys are American, think Meijer. If you guys are in Europe, think like Aldi or Lidl or something like that. Anyways, he would ask the manager, is it okay if we stand outside and sell chocolate bars? And we would. And every single kid, we'd put 2 kids on every entrance and exit. And we would sell. Every kid would be sold out of chocolate in like 10 or 15 minutes, like 15 minutes tops. You'd be sold out, everything you had. And every 5 seconds, a new buyer would come by. And often you didn't even have to pitch them. They would say, what do you got? And you'd say chocolate bars. And they'd say, how much? And then they would buy it. And that was it. There was no pitch. They would actually ask you to sell them. And I was always like, hey, boss man, why do we got to knock on doors for 8 hours a day when we can just go to the grocery store? And there's like 100 grocery stores in town. Can't we just drive around and go to all the grocery stores? Like, why do we got to do this one-to-one shit? And I feel the same way about growing an agency. So how do you get in the door with the partnerships? It's really a couple of steps. And I'll give you guys the first step on me. I built a tool that will find the people that have your audience already. Okay. So I call this find the shoe store. So I'm going to put this in the chat. If you guys want to know who would make a good partner for you, run this tool. It'll go find the people. It'll tell you who they are and you go get them. Okay. So having said that, the next piece of the puzzle is once you've identified them, in order to create a partnership, you have to show up with some sort of value add. And I'll tell you this, and partnerships, by the way, you don't go from I just met you to I'm going to recommend you to everybody I know in a single step. It's more akin to a real relationship where you might, get a number and then text each other and then go on a date and then might kiss a little and it escalates over time. Partnerships are like that. So a lot of times where people screw up is they approach a partner and they're like, hey, do you want to recommend me to all your people? That's not the foot in the door strategy. So I'll tell you one of two things that I do is I either A, do something valuable for them, or B, my magic forward question, can I interview you? And I'm the point of it, by the way, is not to interview them. It's to get my foot in the door so that I can escalate that relationship further on, because when they know who you are, they're far more likely to answer your message. So that's it. Like that's one of two things is I either help them with their shit or I interview them. Like that's it. Like that's the way to get your foot in the door. And then eventually over time, I will propose the idea of let me do this for one or two of your people. And then eventually I'll say, let me do this for everybody. And that's the gist of how you go from no partners to partners. By the way, one partner, one fucking single partner, one can make you $1 million a year. So that's why I like doing it that way. Cause that's some gangster shit. Sorry, let me catch up on the chat here. Very true. You've definitely reframed a lot of my messaging copy. I appreciate that. In regards to business, what would you say would be one of the biggest, most impactful limiting beliefs you had to break to be where you are today? I think there's different limiting beliefs you have to make through different stages. So I'm just, obviously winging it off the top of my head. I'll tell you the first stage when you're getting it off the ground, one of the hardest limiting beliefs is that nobody around you believes in your shit. You got friends and family trying to talk you out of it and get a real job and want you just, want you to work for the government. And it's funny too, because those are all the same people who turn around 5 years later and say, oh yeah, I knew you'd make it. And I always believed in you. And they talk like they were in your fucking corner. Meanwhile, they were your biggest, I call them anti-cheerleaders. And often the most difficult part is their friends, their family. They ain't like random strangers on the street saying, get a job. It's it's mom, it's dad, it's roommate, it's cousin, uncle, it's girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, right? Often it's one of those people. So that's one of the hardest things. Then when you reach stage 2, or I should say your problems kind of shift more towards fulfillment and you start to wrestle with the mental side of, what if I can't do what I promised these people? What if I can't actually make good on these promises? What if my shit's no good? What if I just rip these people off? You start to wrestle with the self-doubts about your ability to actually make good on your promises. Then eventually you get into hiring and you have all these beliefs about it's easier to do it myself. It's faster. If you want it done right, do it yourself, all those kind of things. And you have to get past that. And the beliefs that are required to get to the next step shift over time. But those are some of the bigger ones that I noticed. Kyle says, hey, Frankie, can you go over adding value to move them toward the sale after the first Loom video if they don't buy right away? The shoe store tool is gold, by the way. Appreciate you, Kyle. Just throwing it out there one more time, Kyle. I want to hang out with you in LA. I know you said you know at some point, but I'm just throwing out there. I want to hang out with you. You specifically, my man. So yes. So the way, in a perfect world, somebody would watch your video and they would just ninja hurl the credit card and they say, I'm in. That does happen over time as your video gets more dialed in. But usually in the first draft, what happens is they like it, they're interested, but they don't jump out of their chair and buy it. And so you have to do something called follow-up. What most people do with follow-up is they just pester the person and say, did you watch it? Did you see it? Did you see my proposal? Or they'll sometimes be a little more forward and say, did you want to get started? You want to get started with me? In the entire history of seeing those messages, I've never once seen that work. So what I do is I simply go deeper on what you are proposing in the video as it would specifically apply to them. So here, let me give you an example. I did SEO and water damage restoration. Now, do you think they really care that I know how to do SEO in the broad sense, or do you think they really care about what it looks like for them to be number one, what it looks like for them to have their phone ringing? So one example is if you're going to do SEO, there's like 5-6 things you're going to do. So one of those would be keywords. So I would like look at them and I would say, hey, I was doing a deep dive about how you wanted to get this outcome. In my case, category 3 residential flood jobs. And I was looking at it and I was like, man, this keyword, water damage restoration Denver and emergency flood repair Denver. And I would show them like, these are like 20 keywords that I think are going to crush it for you. And I'm just making it more specific as it relates to them. And I propose to you, this is how normal human relationships evolve anyway. So for example, if I say to you, hey, we should hang out. Can you actually hang out with me, or do you need more info? Do you need like details? When, where, who? Am I picking you up? Are you bringing this? Am I paying for it? Do I need my wallet? Like, what should I wear? I mean, I'm going to wear my swim stuff, or are we going to go eat some food? Right? Like a lot of those questions come into play. And until you know those specifics, you can't move forward. So what I'm doing is I'm making it more specific and more real for them. I might show them keywords. I might show them changes I'm going to make to their website. I might show them exactly what I want to update on their GBP. There's also a power of assumptive language where we're speaking as if we're already working together. So rather than me trying to pursue you, did you want to get started? I'm saying, hey, I was thinking about how you wanted to get category 3 residential flood jobs. And I was looking at your website and I was thinking like, these are the changes we're going to need to make here. These 5, for the things you want to get, these things are off. So I'm planning on updating those just so you know. Let me know when you get a chance to look over everything. And I'm talking like we're already fucking working together, right? And they will, and usually, by the way, between 3 to 5 of those will nudge somebody off what I call that. A lot of sales die on the fence where somebody is interested, looks at it, is genuinely thinking about it. And then it says my connection is unstable. I got to put I got a new Starlink location, so I got to readjust it and everything. Celia says, good evening. What's up, girl? Still morning over here, but good evening to you. Paul says, hey, Frankie, I'm confused that you made a YouTube video saying that in the 90-day challenge, you made $15K a month without a website, but on your screencastify videos, the 90-day challenge, in the 5-day video, you said you threw up a quick website because the shoe store owners were asking to see it. I didn't throw it up actually because the shoe store, you reminded me, Paul. I honestly, just being real with you, forgot that I even fucking made a website because I spent like 20, 30 minutes on it tops, right? Like it wasn't like a giant endeavor. I just slapped it up to have something in case anybody Googled me and whatever. But I honestly just forgot I even made it. So you are correct that I did actually make a video, and I didn't make it specifically just because shoe stores were asking. I made it because there was 2 functions. Now that like I'm thinking back on it, one of the reasons is I think in today more than ever, I call it the ecosystem, but marketing has become less about single thing and more about the ecosystem. So I'll give you a simple example of an ecosystem. You go to Google, you type something in, you get hit with an ad. You click that ad, you're interested. A very common thing to do is now Google that company and see what comes up. Reviews, scams, Better Business Bureau, that kind of stuff. And if the reviews say 1 star, like I was actually looking at an air conditioning thing yesterday, and I clicked on the thing. I love the ad. I was this close to click and buy. And then I went and Googled it, and like all these 1-star reviews came up, and I was like, I dodged a bullet. Thank you. Right. That happens more than most people. So like part of it was just so they would find something about me if they ever needed to Google. And then secondly is for some of the stuff I published, like on a magazine, like they said, like, where do you want us to link to? And like, I didn't have anything. So I was like, I better make one. But in hindsight, You are correct. So whatever I said in the video was just incorrect. But being real with you, I spent less than 20 minutes on it, which is why I forgot about it. It was just like it was done so fast, I just didn't even remember making it. And I don't think a website is a make or break detail like most people think, which is kind of the point of the video. But you are correct. I did make one, and that's my goof up, and I'm owning that. Nicholas says, hey, what's up, Frankie? I've been doing shoe store outreach, and I'm getting on an industry podcast and publishing an article in a magazine, but not sure how to keep adding value to them after. Advice. Yeah, firstly, dude, that's awesome. Getting on an industry podcast in the magazine. One of the underrated things in our industry is credibility and endorsements. And I'll give you an example of how powerful endorsements are. Like, people can't wrap their head around this, but if you understand how to use this, you'll make a fuck ton more money. Imagine Warren Buffett gets on TV and he says, I'm investing in your business, or I'm investing in Frankie's business, and I think you guys should too. How much capital am I going to have by tomorrow morning? And the answer is a fucking lot, right? So in my case, when I did the 90-day challenge, I had a dude who ran one of the industry associations, and he recommended me for some stuff. Those sales are like laydowns. Like, the top guy in the industry says, this is who you should use. When they come to me, there's no secondary option. It's just like, how do we get started? That's the sales process, because a top guy endorsed me. Okay. So I take shoe stores, as you call them, through 3 process. So you're on step 1, coffee date. Coffee date is not a paid exchange. We made a podcast. I wrote in your magazine, right? Second thing I do is a first date, which is a transition of like, let me do this for 1 or 2 of your people and just show you this thing works. I'll do it at cost, or I'll do it cheap. I want to show you that I got a valuable resource for them. And stage 3 is like, hey, I want to do this for everybody. So I'll tell you how I plant the seeds for it early, and how you can be like a good partner to these people. So one of the first things I do is when you finish the podcast, I just say to them, like, usually you finish a podcast, you stop recording, and you talk for like 2 minutes. You go, hey, that was a good episode, whatever. I'll say something like, hey, Nicholas, dude, I had a lot of fun making this with you, and I would love to collaborate with you some more. I don't necessarily have anything in mind right now, but if I think of cool stuff we could do together, is it okay to reach out to you in the future? And they always say yes, by the way, 100 times out of 100. But now they've made it okay to pitch them, right? They've said, yeah, you got shit? Tell me about your shit. So the other thing too is, if you want to know what's important to your shoe store in terms of what they're trying to sell, what they're trying to accomplish, they're not hiding it. So I'll give you an example. Like when I was doing stuff with like Clean Facts in the restoration space, I clicked on their shit and they had a post about an event, right, that they were trying to sell tickets to. So I knew immediately they were trying to sell tickets to an event. Like I said, they're not hiding. And so I asked ChatGPT, I was like, hey, if you were trying to sell this event, what are some of the questions and things you would post about? And it gave me a list of all the things I would talk about. And I was like, can you organize that into a calendar? And it did. And then I was like, okay, they're on these 3 social platforms. Can you write day 1, day 2? And it took about 10 minutes. And I went through and wrote a 30-day calendar to post about the event. And I sent it to him. I said, give this to your social media person. I noticed you guys are trying to sell your event. Go do it. That started with, I just noticed what they were posting about, because they wouldn't be posting about an event if they weren't trying to sell tickets to an event. So I was like, okay, let's put 2 and 2 together. And then I would just like, if this was my baby, what would I do? And they had a shitty little landing page. A lot of times they can get by because they just have credibility, but their landing page sucked, their social posts sucked, and they weren't posting about it often enough. So I was like, hey, I just did it for you. Like that, you get major credibility. Those are the kind of things. And then also I treat them like real relationships. So like I comment on their stuff. Like that same guy I'm talking about, he's always posting about how he hates how restaurants, like they force in this tip and it's not like optional anymore. It'll just say like 15% gratuity. And so every time I see some shit like that, I send it to him and he goes, rah, and the old man yells at cloud. But it just lets them know you were thinking of them, besides just trying to sell them shit, kind of, So like you treat them as a real relationship, just like a friend, by the way. You can send them stupid memes, funny shit. You can add value to their lives by making them laugh. Or, if they're into wrestling, you send them wrestling. If they're into, Breaking Bad, send them some Breaking Bad shit. You just treat it like a real relationship. And then at some point you say, hey, let me do this for 1 or 2 of your people. I want to show you this works. And that's when it transitions into a paid sort of scenario. What information do you collect from the customers? Do you integrate, onboard them onto the CRM if you're using GHL? How do you track how many jobs you bring them? Information you collect on the customer depends on what you're trying to do. Generally speaking, I'm assuming you mean like end customer, not your client, but like your client's client. I think that's what you mean by that question. Depends what you need. Usually it's just name, address, phone number. If you need anything else, depends on again, like what you're trying to get, but usually just the basics of like your name, how do I contact you, phone number, sometimes an email, like that kind of basic stuff. And then how do you track them? How you bring jobs? You can do this one of two ways, and I'm going to give you my preferred way. Way number one is just a tracking phone number. So there's tons of services that do that. We've used one for years called CallFire. There's another really popular one called CallRail. We've used them as well. GHL has tracking options as well. So you run ads or whatever, and you drive them to a tracking phone number. My preferred way of doing it is to create a unique offer. Let's say you're working for a pizza place. If I create the football special, get 2 large pizzas, a Coke, and breadsticks for $24.99 with 2 toppings each, and people call up and say, I want the football special. Well, who else could they have fucking come from? So that's my favorite way of doing it, is to take, because most businesses don't make offers. They just say, we exist. Dave's Plumbing, call now, right? They don't say, for $99, we'll come on over and fix any leak and do it within the hour. Or whatever, right? So like if you turn their thing into an offer, it makes tracking a lot easier, because it's like, well, I made that offer. And by the way, it's one of the simplest ways to make their shit convert better, is make an offer instead of just a call me for a custom quote, which is what most of them do. Love that term, the ecosystem. Yeah, Scott knows what's up with that. Is there a Loom recording example, EJ, category 3 flood jobs? I just want to apply it to my electrical niche, EV chargers, panel upgrades. Yeah, I've mentioned this before. I used to have all my Loom videos public facing and share them abundantly. And I had some dumb motherfuckers who literally copied them word for word and started sending them even to my clients. And they're like, does this guy work with you? Because he's like, he sent me the exact same shit you sent me. And for that reason, I've gotten away from, hey, you can watch Frankie Fihn sell it, and more just like, it's paint by numbers. I'll show you how to make your own. It's not because I'm trying to hide or anything like that. It's just because, like, and I'm not saying it's you, but like some people are just dumb fucks. But if you message me privately, I'm happy to share them. I just don't want to put them out in public, because there's always some dumb fuck who will like rip it off word for word. I see some deleted messages, so you guys are obviously clearly like taking off pants and shit. Paul and Kyle. Kyle says, we want to be there too. We've reserved the hotel room now. We just need to make sure we can make things work after the service. Another quick question. How would you assure the marketing manager who I'm dealing with for one prospective client, we're not trying to replace them, but be a valued partner and resource? That's a tricky one. I think on some level, they'll be threatened by you. That's kind of just how it is. There are ways to like establish it in a conversation. And I'm not saying they're like perfect ways, just, you know, Kyle, like there might always be some level of like suspicion about you. But one of the things I'll do is talk to them and just be like, hey, I don't want to step on your toes. Talk to me about the pieces you're really good at, and I'll talk to you about the pieces I'm really good. And then we can meet in the middle and report to each other and get on the same page. And you kind of got to make it collaborative, and you let them brag about themselves. That's one of the most helpful ways, is get them to tell you what they're really good at and blah, blah, blah. By the way, generally speaking, marketing managers suck at what they do. But nonetheless, you know, you're not trying to get them fired. You're not trying to step on their toes. So like figure out how you can make it collaborative. But it's not unusual. Bigger companies with money often have internal people and like subcontractors or agencies, you know, such as yourself. So, you know, do your best to make the piece. It doesn't always work, just so you know, because sometimes they're just like, fuck you. Why would they bring him in? That's my job. They're just trying to fire me. And then they'll do shit to sabotage you. Like, hey, I need those logins. And they'll pretend they're trying to send them to you. And then they just won't for like weeks and weeks and weeks. And then the client's going, why aren't you getting started? And it's like, well, your manager's being a fucking dick and holding everything hostage. But more than likely, just build them up, make them feel good, make them feel like they're smart. And you just want to tag team it with them, and you're really excited to working with them because you've heard amazing things about them. I've heard amazing things about, I say that to every marketing manager. I've heard amazing things about you. In reality, I haven't heard shit about you other than you exist. But everybody says you're awesome. I'm so excited to be tag teaming this with you. As a side note, would you ever consider starting a paid school or GHL community if you haven't already? Loving the value. I might. You know, I'll tell you why I resisted it, because school's just one more fucking app to download. But if enough of you guys tell me you want me to build it, I'll build it, and we can build a place where you guys can have, like, you know, ask questions, figure shit out, and get reviews on your offers and messaging and shit like that. Thanks for clarifying, Frankie, regarding the website inconsistent with the shoe store. I left a comment regarding that in your latest video, but you didn't respond. But usually respond. I just haven't logged in. I've had like the last 6 weeks, I've had some of the most amount of bureaucracy I've ever had in my life, Kyle. So like I mentioned it before, but I had a car accident. I had to buy 2 new cars. We're doing some relocation. We're buying land. I felt like the last month and a half of my life is standing in lines, fill out the 497B, go over here. So like, you know, I'm behind on shit that had nothing to do with your comment or not. When I went to sign in to make this live, I saw there's like dozens of pending comments that I haven't got to yet, including yours. I was going to buy your course, but I perceive that as a little sus, man. Respect. My courses are sus, dude. Actually, just fun little fact about that, Kyle. Or sorry, not Kyle. I mean, Paul. I actually resisted making courses for a long time because I was like, people were like, hey, are you going to make a course? Are you going to do this? And I was like, no, like I only had an agency mastermind. That was it. And I was like, I don't want to build a course. I don't have time for that shit. It's like, in my world, it was like small potatoes. And after 3 years of people asking me, a guy named Sam Whalen came to me and said, hey, Frankie, you know, if we take your mastermind calls and I could turn like them into mini courses and we would just split the money and I'll like, you know, create everything. I'll organize it. I'll write the sales letter. I'll set everything up and you don't have to do anything other than just tell people it exists. Would that be cool? And I said, yeah. And we split the money. And that's how I got into courses. But it's funny because the reason I bring that up is now people say to me, they're like, oh, you obviously don't know what you're doing because anybody who sells courses must be full of shit. It's like, fact. There we go. Connection is unstable. Sorry, guys, having a little bit of connection. I got to readjust the Starlink, but I haven't done that. As you guys can see, I'm in a new location. Frankie, what should we say when we reach out to your white label outsourcing companies? I assume you just say, you referred us. I won't make you look bad, but LOL. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Just say, hey, you're on Frankie's partners list. You know, you're hiring somebody as a subcontractor, so it's not a particularly difficult conversation, but, you know, feel free to mention my name. I appreciate that. Let me just get back to some of the doc questions here. James says, what are some ways to connect and provide value to audience owners other than co-creating video content? How do you find out what they need help without asking them directly? So this is a really important question, James, is that anybody who's like an audience owner or shoe store, they are not hiding their intentions. There's almost always like 5 to 10 things they're trying to sell. So one of those are events. One of those are memberships, like a lot of associations and things like that have memberships. Sometimes they have software and tools. Sometimes they have like coaching programs and masterminds. Sometimes they have a service attached to it. And usually almost anybody in any industry who has a sizable audience, I would say like 19 times out of 20, they're also content creators. So they got some kind of podcast or YouTube channel or LinkedIn community or something where they distribute information to the same group of people and nurture them over time. And if they have something for sale, they're mentioning it. Also, you go to their website, they're not hiding it. Like if you go to the industry association, like Restoration Industry Association, also called RIA, and you go to their website, the first fucking thing you'll see is become a member. So like, how do I know they're trying to sell memberships? Because the first fucking button on the website says, give me money to become a member, right? So I look at, and then the other thing I look at for adding value, and I wrote my second book on this, what I call digital assets. But I simply ask myself, what are they working with already? Do they have an email list? Do they have a YouTube channel? Do they have a Facebook audience? Do they got people who follow them on Twitter? Right? And I look at those things and I go, okay, which one of these would make the best way to go sell those memberships? Cool thing is, you can often get results for a shoe store in seconds in ways you could not do for yourself, simply because they have a 20-year head start. They have audiences, they have resources, they have tools, they have testimonials, they got reviews, they got people who like them, they got endorsements, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So often they're just not doing enough. And here's a useful thing to ask yourself, James. Like, I want you to think about an email list, which I consider a digital asset. Okay. Here's my question. How much money, if you have an email list of 1,000 people, what is the maximum amount of money you can make off of 1,000 people? And the answer is there ain't no maximum, right? If somebody goes in there and makes 10 grand, which I would think would be, a nice start, somebody else might be able to make 100,000 off the same list. And somebody else might be able to make $1 million. Depends a lot on who's on that list, right? And you can sell them things again and again and again and again. And the reason I say that is because you can safely assume they're not 100% maximized with their resources, because nobody is. Ain't no motherfucker on earth getting 100% of the juice out of the orange. And there's always one more use and some other thing they can do. So I just look at, the 3 pillars of like, what are they trying to sell? What offers are they making to do it? And what resources do they have to do it? And sometimes I'll just come and say, hey, I had an idea for you. You're offering a membership. What if you added in this limited time bonus if anybody became a member over the next 7 days, and you posted that on your LinkedIn community? I bet you'd get some more new members. Here you go. I wrote the post for you. Like, that's how you can escalate relationships with those kind of people. Let me see what I just missed. Paul says, don't want to sound like beating dead horse, but the video you made about that said you did 15K a month without a website. You just forgot you made his website, because I just found it kind of sus, Well, I'm human, Paul, so I don't know what to tell you. Like, just so you know, like, I've done 1,000 fucking things over the last 3 years. So like, yeah, when you bring it up and I remember, but like, why I didn't remember it is I spent like 20 minutes on it. It wasn't a central main thing. It was just like when you reminded me, I'm like, I published an article and they said, where do you want us to link to? And I didn't have a place. So I slapped up a website real quick, but it wasn't like a central pillar of all the shit I was doing. What I was doing was building strategic relationships in the industry. And to be honest with you, like, and this is not like directed at you, Paul, but I'm like, I've done this shit so long. I don't really give a fuck if anybody like finds it's sus or not. Like, I don't have to prove myself to anyone. Like, I just share good ideas. If you guys get value and you want to use them, go. But I'm not like, and just to be clear, just because I made, 15, 16 grand recurring after a month of doing that doesn't mean you will. I'm not like representing that as, hey, I did this, you can too. For me, I only even created the thing because people kept asking me, if like, number one question I got asked again and again and again and again repeatedly, like, if you were me and you were starting over, like, what would you do to get to 10K a month as fast as possible? And I just got sick of the question. So I'm like, I'll do it. I'll document it. When people ask, I'll show the documentation, and you can like, follow along with, here's what I would do, exactly what I did. Like, that was the only purpose of that. Frankie's getting grilled. Yeah, I am getting grilled, but I don't care. It's all good. What's a good budget to start with? For what? I'm assuming you mean Facebook ads. Scott says it takes 20 minutes to put up a site. Doesn't matter. I could underarm fart out a new site. And you're just being real with you guys. I'm at a level now where I have multiple businesses and multiple endeavors and partners and things like that. Like, the amount of moving pieces is a lot, just so you guys know. It's like, when you're starting out, you got a GHL SaaS and you're trying to get clients and you're sending outreach messages and you're tracking like 3 things. I have employees, systems, teams, finances, legal. Like I said, we just bought 2 fucking new cars. I had to, make some business structure change. We just added a new partnership. Like, we got, a team of 3 people working on that. And like, for me, like, I don't always remember all the details other than the big picture. And I've always been a big picture guy. In fact, it drives my lady crazy because I never remember details. Like I pay for things, but I like often I'll have to like literally. I'm one of the worst things I'm at, just so you guys know, is dates. Like just bad because I've had so much independence for like 20 years that like dates don't mean anything to me. Like I use them to be able to interact with other people, but like I don't fucking know. Like if you ask me today, like what's today's date, I have to hover over the calendar to go, okay, it's Monday, May 4th. But if my computer didn't tell me that, I wouldn't have any idea. Budget for Facebook ads. I'll tell you how I like to do Facebook ads. And this is an oversimplification because obviously I could talk for days about running ads. So what I'm mainly testing with Facebook ads right out of the gate are offers and nothing else. This is what my main promise is. I will sometimes test 3 to 4 variables in those campaigns. Who I show ads to, in other words, targeting. Images, what am I using to get their attention? Offers, what am I actually offering? And those are the biggest 3 things I'll test. And I only test those things one at a time. I never test like 3 variables at once. So like if I'm trying to test targeting, I'll try the same ad, 2 different audiences. If I'm trying to test offers, I'll try the same targeting, same image, but 2 different offers, right? But for the most part, like I'm really just testing offers in the beginning. And what I do, depending on your audience, is I do what I call $50 to $100 hand raiser tests. Hand raiser being like a short summary of the offer. And what I'm looking for is interest. And this throws people off because interest is not credit cards. I'm not looking for I spend $50 and somebody buys it. I'm looking for people to go, tell me more about that. So like if I run ads to a dentist and say, hey, I can get you braces patients, and I spend $100 on it, and no dentist says, tell me more about how you can get braces patients, then I can that ad. But if I get like 5 dentists who like fill out the form or comment or message me details or however I set up the next action, and they go, tell me more about that, then I'm like, hey, there's smoke here. There's more than likely a fire, and I'll build off of those and turn those into winning campaigns. I compare it to like if I say to you, hey, my neighbor Susie's available. Do you want to get set up? And you say, no, like I don't really need to worry about date details or anything like that. But if you say yes, now I have to fill in the details to get you guys together. When, where, who wears what? Are we going to text each other? Are we going to call? Park here, say this, do that. She's really into piano. Tell her you play piano, whatever, right? The details will get filled in later. But if you won't raise your hand and say, yeah, I want to meet Susie, you ain't going to date her. So like my first test at Facebook ads are that. And then once you say, yeah, I want to meet her, tell me more about her, then I start filling in details and pieces around it. Like that's my strategy. And so what I'm doing with ads, just so you know, is almost like gambling. Like one of my mentors compares it to, imagine you flip a coin, and if it's heads, you lose $100. But if it's tails, you can make 100,000. Well, even if it's come up heads and you're down like 5 times in a row and you're down $500, you keep flipping because eventually it's going to land tails and you'll make 100,000. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to minimize my losses when I'm wrong, and you're going to be wrong more often than you're right. But when I'm right, I scale the fuck out of those things. So like that's kind of my general approach to Facebook ads for getting it started. And then once I have something that's working, then I bring in complexity usually in terms of retargeting, and I'm retargeting for 3 main things. I'm trying to address the plan, like how I'm going to get you a result. I'm trying to address the proof of like, and by the way, people assume proof equals case studies. Like most people get that way wrong. But I'm showing them real examples of what I'm actually going to do. And then the last piece is I'm addressing objections. In other words, reasons they would say no. And I bring in all that retargeting so that if they click it and express interest, now they start getting the other pieces of the funnel. And that's kind of like, I don't know, that's how I've done Facebook ads. TJ says, hey, Frankie, sent out my first 2 looms last week, one to a TRT clinic and one to a hair surgeon. The TRT clinic was super close, but ultimately got shut down by the business partner, but was close, dude. That's exciting, dude. It also like, just seeing that you were close kind of like gets you to see like, holy shit, this process can work. Frankie, I wanted to do the GHL automations in the medical niche because it's much closer to the golf hole. but should I still evaluate it if it's fulfilling their $100 bill? I would either way, I would validate it with a hand raiser. Don't assume you know what they want. Just say like, if I could, and if I was trying to do it in the medical niche, unlike what everybody else is selling, which what everybody else is selling is like AI voice solutions. Like I would probably start with the, hey, you're spending all this money on ads, and anytime somebody calls in the evening or the weekend, you're losing that. What if I could just help book some of the stuff you already paid for on evenings and weekends? Like that's how I would try and get my foot in the door. You never know until you try it. Even that is an educated guess. But you got to paint the picture of you're losing money every time somebody calls on an evening or a weekend. And by the way, like I've said this, they're buying their way out of problems, not into solutions. So like what most people try and do is like GHL, missed call, text back. Like instead of how much money did you lose? Because motherfuckers are calling you on Saturday. Yeah, like that's what you got to, that's closer to where the messaging has to be. Is it the same with Google Ads? Google Ads is more complex that way because the prices can vary a lot. So generally speaking, what I'm looking for with Google Ads is more like 50 clicks as a test. And the 50 clicks in some industries will cost you $100, and in some industries will cost you $2,500. It depends on the industry and what you're trying to do. But same basic idea is like summary of an offer. If they'll click it and they say, I'm interested, then you do more. If they won't, then they won't. Sending the Loom prevented me from hopping on a call and getting the dreaded, I got to talk to my business partner about this. So the Loom saved me 45 minutes. That's actually the biggest reason to do it. I used to think it was about like you close more people, and you do because you eliminate the scheduling conflicts, TJ. But it's actually you waste less time talking to people who aren't going to move forward, and you let video have that conversation for you. And so, and the other thing I learned is like there's a simple variable in this business, which is you want to make more money, make more offers. You want to make more money, you make more offers. You want to make more money, make more offers. If you are limited to calls, you're going to make one offer per hour, and you'll never make more than one unless you have like an army of salespeople, and then they're going to get a cut of all the offers. But if you use video, like the same video can be simultaneously having conversations with 20 people. So now you're making 20 offers an hour. You're going to make more money simply from that reason. And also prospects, I can't tell you the number of time prospects cool down simply because of the scheduling. Like when I used to get really busy, successful attorneys, they'd be like 6-8 weeks out. And so they'd be like, by the time you get a booking 6 weeks later, they'd be like, who are you? And what is this about again? How did you get on my calendar? You know, that video you watched, almost a year ago? You'd have to explain that. Now it's like, I just send them the video. I'm like, okay, well, check it out. You let me know. And a lot of times, like I'll get people who will respond at midnight because that's when they had time. They were laying in their bed, checking their phone. And there's no scheduling option for midnight, but there's a watch a Loom video option for midnight. So I like it, dude. The actual biggest thing is the amount of time you save yourself doing it. Yeah, the hair's still certain is still in play. Just got to do the Frankie style follow-ups. We did the hand raiser for him. He's a friend of one of my clients, warmly. There you go, dude. I'm told Chris, my client business partner, we should get on industry-related podcasts. He runs a hair loss medication company, and we both have deep industry knowledge on hair transplants. Well, I'll tell you, if you do that, you'll get some major credibility. For me, like one of the things I did is like when I first got into legal, I was on LinkedIn just friending people and building connections. And I saw one guy that said, publisher, Attorney at Law magazine. And I had heard of Attorney at Law magazine. It's like the biggest magazine in the industry. And I was like, I sent him a message. I was like, dude, that's super interesting. How did you get into publishing for Attorney at Law? What's a day like for you? Is it fun? Is it enjoyable? And he sent me a message back and he said, well, today I got to have a magazine quality article and my writer bailed on me. So I have 3 hours to come up with something before we have to go to print. That's what my days are like. And I said, give me 45 minutes and I'll give you a solution. I'll send you an article. That's magazine. He went, really? I went, really? And I sent it to him. And I remember I wrote 6 articles in total for Attorney at Law magazine. Like I wrote millions of them. And when I would go on stage and stuff, instead of being, hey, I'm Frankie Fihn trying to sell you some Facebook ads, when they would say, hey, you may have heard of our next speaker from Attorney at Law magazine or his work with John Morgan or such and such. And they would introduce me with 3 credibility factors. Your perceived status goes up to here. And when your perceived status is up here, The sales process is like this. It's downhill. It's like he's an expert. He's the guy who wrote for the magazine. He must know. In reality, it was just like a free little thing I wrote in 45 minutes. So same thing with industry podcasts. Like the credibility factor is you can't buy that shit. When you use your Chat GPT bot, how long does it take to make a 5-minute Loom video? As a general rule, 5-minute video, actually, like first time through, will take you an hour. But it'll take you 5 minutes to record and 10 minutes to make the slides once you get used to making them. And the real benefit is you get to reuse them because they actually take 15 minutes to make. But having said that, like if you do it right, you're using the same video over and over and over. And like that's kind of the magic. Let me just catch up on some of the ones I got some from the group here in a Google Doc. Let me just read this. Dwight says, is there a good strategy to run Facebook ads as a new offer? Research with the bot, of course, essentially fast track going from 0 to 5 clients and beyond. Essentially, like I mentioned, I'm testing offers / promises, and I'm testing mainly 2 variables at the beginning is like, do you have this problem? Do you want this outcome? Like, that's really all I'm testing, just so you guys know. It would say like, if I got into accounting, it would say, hey, accountants, are you real slow after tax season? That's a problem, right? And I might say, what if we could get you recurring bookkeeping clients that kept you busy all year? Right? That's an outcome, a recurring bookkeeping client. And I would test that. And if it didn't work, I might change the problem and say, hey, accountant, are you getting end consumers and they're just small little $100 tax returns? Would you rather do bigger shit? That's a different problem, even though I'm like the service attached to it is the same. And so I test those in little $50 to $100 increments and then build off the winners, as I mentioned. And what I'm looking for, again, is not for them to buy it, for them to say, I'm interested. Tell me more. Lazarus says, does anyone here target or work with the auto detailing niche? Yes, we got people who do it. As a general rule, I think most people misunderstand why guys like me say to pick a niche. And so they get really, really hung up on thinking that there are good and bad niches. And if you get this wrong, you're fucked forever. There are 4 main reasons to pick a niche. Reason number 1 is you'll make more money as a specialist. When I used to sell websites as a generalist, $500 to $1,000. When I sold the same website as a plastic surgery specialist, $500 or $5,000 to $10,000. I made 10 times the money. I didn't get any better at WordPress, just so you guys know. But I was a specialist. I must know. Reason number 1, specialist. Reason number 2, your messaging will say something. Generalist says, we know how to do a bunch of shit. Hire us. You're like an employee trying to get hired. Specialist says, if you got this one problem, I know how to fix it, like a gangster, right? So your messaging will just get stronger. It'll have some bite. Reason number 3, scale. Nobody really thinks about this in the beginning, but the more you have to reinvent the wheel every time you get a client, the harder it is to scale. So generalists, they're making a website for a plumber one day and then doing Google ads for a dentist the next. And they're running Facebook ads for a med spa. And then they got this one guy over here who wants to edit some videos. That's really hard to scale. You're like literally reinventing the wheel every day of the week. As where when I did my second agency and I became hip to this, we ran Facebook ads for personal injury attorneys. When I found one ad that worked for one client, I deployed it to everyone and they all got the same ad. The same winning ad that worked for one guy, I would multiply by like 50 guys. And then it would like work for all of them. And I didn't have to come up with 50 different ads. I had to come up with one ad and use it 50 different times, made my scaling life a lot easier. There's still other challenges. And then reason number 4 is you get a clear path to where to go get them. So I hear all the time, like people say, like, how do I find people who want to spend money on Google ads? How do I find people who want to pay for SEO? And I don't know how to answer that question. Like people don't walk down the street and say, I want to buy Google ads today. But I'll tell you what they do is if you're aiming it at, say, plastic surgeons, you can speak to the outcome that a plastic surgeon wants and you can strategically go get them, right? So like the more you know where they are, like the example I use, if you say, I want to meet a golfer, then I would tell you, like, let's go hang out at the golf course. If you said, I want to meet a nurse, I would like, well, let's go hang out at the hospital where all the fucking nurses are. If you said, I want to go meet a stripper, I would say, let's go to the strip club or to the Coke dealer where all the strippers are, right? So when you have a niche, you can clearly identify where they are and go where they are. But those are the 4 reasons to pick a niche. Okay. So reason number 1, like I said, is you have like more money doing the same shit, better margins. Reason number 2, your messaging actually says something to somebody. Reason number 3, you have scale, economy of scale built in. And then reason number 4 is you have a clear path for let's go get them where they are, right? But it's not because like car detailers are good and med spas aren't, or I heard this niche is, and part of the reason that this is worth understanding is that every time you solve a problem in business, you make a new one, right? So as an agency, when you start out, you don't have any clients. That's your fucking problem. Then you go fix it. Now you got a fulfillment problem. How am I going to actually make good on all these promises I made? Then if you get good at that, you now have a hiring problem. I have to go hire people to help me fulfill on all this shit. You get good at hiring, you'll eventually have a manager problem called now I got to manage all these fucking people and make sure they do what they're supposed to do, right? So every time a problem is solved, it creates a new one. So there's no such thing as any niche that is void of problems. Our goal is to find underserved problems, turn those into services, and fucking scale them, right? But it ain't because like, oh, HVAC house is everybody's in HVAC. Yeah, a lot of people sell Me Too shit. They sell the same shit in the same way to everyone else, and it feels saturated. But I promise you, there are always underserved problems in every niche, and there always will be. And so part of your goal is to identify those things. So I'm only ranting on this because a lot of times people ask me, is this a good niche? Is that a good niche? And it's like, so many good niches. It's like, really? It doesn't matter that much. Celia says, is it okay to demand that other agency is not allowed to work on the account under the contract, or point out if it can be a problem if they do? So I kind of mentioned this a little bit in the group, but it's a negotiation. So like, obviously you may not want another agency as part of it, especially if they're going to create conflict, especially if there's a lot of overlap. Sorry, let me reread that. But I'll tell you, bigger companies almost always have other agencies. Like you're the 12th agency they hired, and you'll be working alongside 12 other agencies. And so if you want to work with bigger companies, you have to kind of get used to the fact that like you're going to be around other agencies. That's just how the fuck it is. Having said that, what I like to do is try and make a service that you're not in direct conflict. So like if they sell SEO and you sell SEO, there's going to be conflict. But one example, when we used to sell motorcycle cases to PI attorneys, we ran Facebook ads, and they would say, hey, we already got a Facebook ads guy. And I would say, well, is your Facebook ads guy going after motorcycle cases specifically, or is he just going after your usual standard motor vehicle accident, MVA kind of basic stuff? And they'd say, I think just the usual stuff. I'd say, cool. He can run the account and go after that, and I can run the account and go after this. And we could use the same account. Ain't no conflict over here. Having said that, if it's a problem for you, you're allowed to tell them. This is a thing that most people don't realize is in their mind, they think client holds the credit card, ergo they have all the power, and you're not allowed to advocate and say, no, homie, don't play this. And by the way, the more you say like, homie, don't play this, the more you say like, this is how I work, and if you got a problem with that, the more they will actually respect you and pay you more money. It's like, I call it the benevolent dictator, but most businesses don't want to be making all the decisions. They want somebody who can come in and knows what they're doing and says, here's what we're going to fucking do. Here's what we're going to fucking do. All right. You guys want this? I'm spearheading this. I'm going to make this happen. I'm doing it. That's actually what they want. The benevolent dictator. I'm doing this in your best interest, but I'm going to tell you how shit is going down. That's the highest frame you can get paid from. It's the benevolent dictator. But having said that, it's a negotiation. So if you tell them like, hey, I'm uncomfortable with that, you know, there'll be some back and forth. There's no have-tos in any of that. Sometimes there's waves like AI implementation or consulting, but it can be difficult to scale without tons of in-person hours. How do you productize this and keep high pricing? Okay, first of all, I do not chase waves like other people, and I'll tell you why. Because I see the same pattern with these same waves again and again and again. I'll give you a real life example of the wave. So some of you guys know him, Ty Lopez. He's a famous internet marketer, much more famous than me. He had a social media course. He said, sell social media services to roofers and contractors and people like that. And he came out with a course. And as part of the course, he had a template for how to message these people, like an outreach template. And he sold 60,000 copies of that course. He's a pretty good marketer. And what ended up happening is, even to this day, like 10 years later, people who are in those niches tell me they get his exact script copied and pasted them hundreds and hundreds of times over. So I ain't saying it's a bad script. It probably worked in the beginning, but what happens is over time, you have 10,000 copycats all saying the same thing in the exact same way. It stops working, right? And so what happens is when shit gets trending and hot, there is a window of time where it's new and exciting and nobody else is doing it. And like, if you do this long enough, you'll see this, the names will change, but the trends will not. I remember when NFTs were hot. I remember when starting a TikTok agency was hot. I remember when a GHL SaaS was the new thing. I now know AI voice solutions. Oh, you got to sell AI voice solutions. And homie over here, don't chase trends, because the same trend happens is when it's new and exciting, and there's not a lot of people doing it, it's a wide open thing. And then you give it 2 years and that fucking door closes from all the copycat competition. And then 2 years later, you're back at square one trying to restart. And I don't like building businesses to restart personally. So what I like to do, it's really simple. It's really basic, but I always start with people and problems and look for underserved problems, because that will never go out of style. And I learned this, by the way, there's a book. Some of you guys may have read it. It's called The Millionaire Fast Lane by MJ DeMarco. And he said, money follows needs. Money follows needs. If you want to make money, chase needs, not money. So almost everybody goes, what can I do to make some fast money? I need to make some money. Like some of the people in our space, I laugh about it because some of you guys, you message me. I love you guys dearly. You're like fucking crackheads. You're like, I need to make some money right fucking now. What can I fucking do? I need to make some money. And almost always, you'll chase some short-term trend that will fuck you in the long term. You'll do some shit. It's like if you take some weight loss pills that makes you shit your guts out, you probably lose some weight, but like 3 months from now, you're going to have some health problems that are a side effect of you took the shortcut instead of building the real thing. So I'm only going to tell you guys how to build the real thing. And I'm not like picking on your question, Super Mike, in particular. I'm just, because like this is directed at more than just you personally, just so you know. I always start with people and problems. And then how do I price it and productize it? Well, firstly, you productize it by doing the same problem with the same kind of person. If one dentist has this problem, you can bet 1,000 of them have it. So I productize it by standardizing how we do it. And then I price it. Here's the reality. I never know what to price it the first time through. So it's a little bit of a negotiation. But the 12th time I sold it, I know for sure that A, it works, and B, that my price is a discount. So that's the other reason to like pick a niche as well, is because you're doing the same thing over. Like if you ran the same campaign for 12 dentists and they all made money, or most of them did at least, you're going to be way more confident the 13th time you present that. Ergo, you're going to be able to charge a bigger price. You're going to be able to get it. You're going to have more examples. You're going to have more proof. You're going to have more certainty. So the first time you price anything, here's the honest to God's truth. Like, I don't know what to price shit. I don't. Ain't no secret code. I wish there was. I'd probably make a lot more money if I knew the charge exactly this amount. I will sometimes ask AI for guidelines. I'll say, hey, I'm selling this to this kind of person in this way. What do you think you could charge? But I'll tell you as a general rule, there is a magic space of between $1,000 to $3,000 per month where it is enough money for you to make some money and still be able to hire somebody to help, because you can get a lot of help in places like the Philippines and you know, Latin America and places like that. So you still have enough meat on the bone where you can hire somebody to help you fulfill on it, but you're still cheaper than a domestic US employee. So you're not at the price where they start saying, you know what, I'll just do this myself. Like if you charge $10,000 a month, and we have people who do that, and well beyond that, actually. We have some people who charge $100,000 per month for local businesses, if you can believe that. But $10K a month, right? Now they're wondering, should I just hire this in-house? $1 to $3K a month, they can't hire that in-house. And if they did, they would get somebody part-time, and part-time people are give you part-time effort, right? So I say that because there is a magic. Like usually when I test pricing, I start somewhere between $1,000 and $3,000 a month. And I do that because like that's cheaper than them bringing in their own person. That's a guideline, not an exact science. But pricing is not an exact science to begin with. And if you meet anybody who knows how to do that, like to an exact science, send them my way because I would love to know how. Frank, you said they're buying more so to get out of their problems and solution. Does this mean I shouldn't sell them an ROI they would get? So just so you know, Paul, it's not like they don't care about outcomes. It's like in their mind, it's if I could put it into ratios, they're like 75% buying their way out of their problem and 25% buying their way into the outcome. So ROI is like an outcome. And now obviously I would get more specific on what type of ROI and what kind of people you're going to bring. It's an outcome, but it's only 25% of the equation, which is why when I like run ads and things like that, I'm testing what problem, because in their mind, they're sick and tired of something. I'll give you a real example. When I sold to the water damage restoration guys, they would just say the simplest thing in the world. They just say, I don't have steady work for my guys. Say, well, we're going to run SEO. It'll take a while to kick in, but once it kicks in, you're going to have steady work for your guys. Right? That's it. We can get you steady work for your guys. Like that's all they wanted more than anything is like, I'm sick of this. One week I got work for them. Next week I don't, right? I want steady, right? I want some predictability. I want some consistency. I actually just remember now that I missed a question in the group that was asking specifically about SEO. I'm going to see if I can find this real quick about hand raisers with SEO. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Let's search SEO hand raiser. See what comes up. Okay, here we go. What's a good hand raiser for SEO? Like, how do you find business owners who hear pay for a few months with no ROI? You'll make your money back once you rank in the top 3, and that's a good idea. At this point, you would need to find business owners who are open to losing upfront with the possibility of winning down the line. Even so, SEO works and the leads are much higher quality. Once you reach the top, the offer still sucks. Any thoughts on a good hand raiser? So, all right. It's a good question, by the way. Hand raisers. Hand raiser is a way to test an offer. And just so you guys know, if you sell SEO or you sell GHL or you sell those kind of things, I do SEO is not the offer. Okay. The offer is more akin to the problem you can solve and the promised outcome you can create. I really want to harp that detail. And so if you do SEO for a plumber and a dentist, the outcome will be different, even though the deliverable is the same. So if you do it for a plumber, they are likely to get emergency calls of people who say, I got a clogged toilet at 7 at night. If you do it for a dentist, they're likely to get calls from people who say, my tooth hurts, or I need a checkup, or I just moved into town and need a new dentist, right? Those are different outcomes, same service, same exact service. I will give you guys a shortcut for selling SEO because it took me 10 years to figure this out, okay? Firstly, the biggest problem that they're trying to solve, if you want to make SEO a real world problem, is every local business on earth knows their competitors by name and hates their fucking guts. So I always go, hey, this is ABC Plumbing. This is Crown Restoration. This is Smile Dental Los Angeles. I don't know if you know this, but they're number one for this keyword that I think you should be number one for. They're getting X number of people to call them every month that are not calling you simply because they're above you in Google. Did you know that? That makes SEO a today problem, not a later, not a tomorrow, not a nice to have in 6 to 12 months. You are losing business now. Okay. That's how we make SEO a today problem. Now, as far as hey, it takes a while to work, every service takes a while to work. SEO is obviously on the longest end of the spectrum. But the simplest analogy you can make is investing, right? You invest money, generally speaking, you are not getting a return in the next 5 minutes. I have some investments I'm doing for my kids that in my head are 30-year timelines, meaning I'm putting money now that my kids will not see for 3 decades. That's how long I intend to have it compound continuously in the background. 3 motherfucking decades. So there is a tendency to think that business owners are not mature enough to hear that you have to invest money now and there will be a delay of time. And some businesses are desperate and need it now. Those are the ones you don't want to sell SEO to as a general rule. Any business that's desperate of like, I need it yesterday, is usually broke and going to be a pain in the ass. You want somebody who's like, has all the pieces. So like I've learned that SEO works best for people who have working offers, working sales processes. They have teams, they're spending money other places. Their business is largely working. It's just the ranking side of it that's not. And therefore they can afford to be patient for 6 months. And one of the ways you may lessen that, if I was selling SEO now, I'd say, hey, listen, this stuff takes 6 to 12 months to work. I'm not going to save your business in 6 months, or I'm not going to save your business in 6 minutes or 6 weeks. But if we did it for 30 days or 60 days, I can show you movement in the right direction to show you I know what I'm doing. I can take you from lower where you are now and bring you higher, maybe not all the way to number one, but I can show you like we're trending in the right direction. Why don't we just try it for 30, 60 days? Like, aren't you sick of losing business to Crown? Aren't you? And so when you're positioning that as a hand raiser, you got to know what problems exist in your industry. It helps to pin it to a name. This is the guy who's stealing your lunch money. To this is the kind of person I can bring you. And yes, there is a time delay, but if you want, I can show you movement right now in the next 30, 60 days. That's how I would sell SEO. Let me just get the last one in the chat, Doc, and then I'll come back to the YouTube chat here. Just 1 second. Lauren says, really grateful to have come across your book and content, Frankie. I've got 2 young kids. The youngest one just turned 1 and only work 2 days a week, so it's hard to get time to do live sales calls. I've been implementing your Loom video strategy, and the conversion rates are amazing. This screenshot is from an email this morning. This guy filled in a form on my website. I recorded a 15-minute video showing him what I do. Initially, he just wanted help with his email deliverability and setup, but I had to look at his website. He wants me to overhaul both. I've never spoken to him, just emails and video recordings. Obviously, money isn't in the bank yet, but I'm taking this as a win. Interestingly, I work with churches who notoriously don't have money, and yet they're finding the money because they know this is necessary and because the value is there. Thank you for all the work you do. You've made it so much easier for me to stay at home with my kids while working a few days with someone else who has them. I've sold about 20K worth of work to churches and Christian organizations in the last 6 months using this strategy. Forever grateful. Firstly, I got to say, Lauren, that's just fucking awesome. Like, that's fucking awesome. And I'm going to put a shameless plug in the chat. Build Your Loom in LA, because we're having a live event for those of you guys who haven't seen it. But I'm stoked to hear you made 20 grand through video. And I'll tell you, like, that's one of the biggest reasons I actually started, for the same reason. So we were living in Germany. Like, I was digital nomad for a lot of years, lived all over the world. And then we had kids and we needed to settle down. So we settled down in Germany. And as part of me getting like the green card, like my sort of residency, Germany's had an influx of immigrants, and a lot of immigrants milk the system and don't work. And they say, well, I don't speak the language, so how can I get a job? So they made it mandatory that anybody who gets a residency has to go to school and learn the language. So here I was, like 35 years old, in school, like I was fucking 8. And it was taking up like 6, 7, 8 hours of my day. And then I would go home and do sales calls. And I can actually remember looking at little Heidi. She would climb on the couch and she was like learning to walk, and she would bounce and she wanted to play with daddy. And I remember looking at her, I was like, shh, shh, daddy's on a sales call. Shut the fuck up. Shh, daddy's on a call. Shh, shh. And I remember hanging up after the call and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? What really matters here? When this is over, am I going to wish I had another sales call, or am I going to wish I was with my daughter growing up? Right around then, I got hit with an ad from a mentor of mine, Travis Sago, who talked about you could sell this stuff phoneless. He was doing it through Google Docs, but I decided to kind of twist it and, modify it for agency stuff to sell through videos. And what I learned is, like you said, it eliminates a lot of the complexity, because 2 of the biggest complexities in selling the way people traditionally do it, number 1 is the schedule conflict. How's your July 27th at 2 p.m.? Oh, I'm busy then. And then the second reason is, like, more than half of the sales calls you do are just motherfuckers who want to know the price. Like, just motherfuckers who want to know the price. And they resent having to talk to you for an hour to find it out. Just tell me, like, I'm in the same boat where people pitch me a lot on my YouTube channel. And a lot of times they like, okay, I'm interested. Tell me how much it is. What is it? Like, shoot your shot. And they're like, well, we got to jump on an hour-long call and blah, blah, blah. I'm already not interested. If I have to talk to you for an hour just for you to tell me how much it is, like, and most people think businesses are not mature enough to hear the price, but it's just because most agencies don't know how to present price. And a big part of what makes a Loom video work, presenting the price in a way where it sounds valuable. When you do that, the value is higher than the price, ergo they want it. And you can skip a lot of the bullshit. You can skip a lot of the bullshit that most people do. And I'm stoked to hear that like, I have good and bad days just like anyone else. I don't have a lot of bad days like I used to, but when I have a bad day, I'll tell you, there's always like a message like yours, Lauren, that picks me up and reminds me that, like, it's amazing. You got young kid and, like 1-year-old, that's fucking difficult stage. And instead of, trying to build this business hopping on calls, you're making 20 grand, converting people through video. Like, that just gives me a little tickle in my pickle. All right, let me catch up into the chat now. Let me see where the last one. By the way, Frankie, hand raiser bot with the 5.5 models, perhaps the best copywriting I've ever used. There you go, TJ. I like it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's like the best copywriting in the world. It's designed for local businesses. That's like, been my bread and butter for like 20 years. Local service businesses, if we're being more specific, not the store selling cupcakes or whatever. It's more designed for, plumbers, doctors, lawyers, things like that. But it works for that function really well. Frankie, how much to get you to look at my hand raiser and Loom video before I send it out? Just send it to me, just so you guys know. I mean, I look at this shit all the time. I just know that, like, if you send me some shit and it's long, like, it might take me a few days to get to it as a general rule. But I never turn anyone away, just so you guys know. Like, I love the shit. I love helping you guys. If you got something you want me to look at, send it to me. I'm also a big believer in pay it forward. I've had some of you guys, like, over the years where I helped you with some shit. I don't even remember it half the time because I'm answering the same questions over and over so often. And then somebody will say, hey, I bought your course. I didn't have any money when you helped me 2 years ago, but I do now. And I just wanted some way to pay you back for helping me get off, get out of this pit or get on my feet again. And I think that's super cool. So, like, I'm a big believer. It all comes back. So, like, send me your shit. I'm happy to help any way I can. Like, let's, like, if I can help you guys, like, I will. Like, I just, you don't always have to send me money to get support. And by the way, like, most of us, when we start this business, you're fucking broke. So I understand a lot of you guys are starting out and you're broke. So, like, I ain't gonna, like, if I charge you my real rates, you'd be like bankrupt in 10 minutes. But that's not the plan anyways. But I've been there too. I don't talk about this phase, but I slept on my girlfriend's couch for like the first 8 months of growing this business. It was a rough period in my life. Frankie, one of my struggles is this idea that there are not enough businesses out there that still need these types of services. How should I get past that mental struggle? I mentioned this before. One of the biggest reasons, I guess there's a second part. Like, we live in the first 16 years of internet lead gen, Facebook, but Google. What about 15 years from now on? Okay. So whenever you solve one problem in business, it creates another. I mentioned this before. When you grow an agency, you start out, you got no clients. That's your problem. Solve it, and you'll have fulfillment problems. And you'll wonder, how are we going to make good on these problems? How are we going to actually do this? How are we going to actually get these people results? You figure that out, sales and fulfillment, you'll now have a hiring problem. You figure out the hiring problem, you'll have a management problem. You figure out the management problem, you'll have like a corporate kind of big structure. You'll have corporate-y kind of problems. So the reason I say that is there are always underserved problems in the industry. Now, I agree with you. I would not sell the same shit in the same way as everyone else. And for the most part, I haven't for the last 10, 11, 12 years. I've broken away from, hey, if your competitor makes a pitch and you come in the door and say, we do that too, I think you're already in a difficult place because now you got to convince them you're better. And I always try and create little add-on services for underserved things. So, like, add-on, to me, the simplest way you can understand an add-on is, imagine somebody sells dinner to your target prospect, and now you come in and say, hey, I got dessert, or I got a show. You just had dinner. You want to come to a show, right? I want my thing to be complementary to what they're doing. And the way I find these is I just do the damn research that no other agency does. Agencies almost always start with the tools. I'm going to sell Facebook. I'm going to sell GHL. In fact, I'll read you a tab I got open in Reddit right now. This is a question from somebody. This is how everybody does this shit. Hey, everyone, I'm at the very beginning. Could use some real advice from people in the space. I want to start a small agency focused on lawyers, selling them chatbots, CRM, simple websites, landing pages, chatbots, CRM automation. I have zero real experience building this. I'm stuck between, should I go and code them or take time, learn how to do this? I don't want to waste months learning anything. If you were me and you're starting out, which tools would you learn first? Would you code it? Is it realistic to get paying clients? Okay. This person already has tools in mind before they know what their target client needs. So they're going to try and sell a fucking AI, an automation, a fucking CRM, some landing pages in their websites. But in this case, they said they want to sell lawyers. They never asked a fucking lawyer, what problem do you have? They never read any lawyer shit. And so they're creating shit that should not exist in the marketplace. And it will be hard to sell no matter what the fuck they do. But I can tell you, for example, one of the issues lawyers have is they work 60 hours a week or more. Their clients don't always know what's going on. They get a lot of the wrong clients. They get clients with bad expectations. They can tell you, they can articulate lots of those problems. So like, for example, one of the simplest things that fixes this for a lot of businesses is just help them sell what I call their $100 bill, their expensive thing. Hey, I get no margin and I spend a lot of time with these people over here. Well, let's sell your expensive thing that doesn't like often, like for a lawyer, the difference in work between a big case and a small case is not that much, but the amount of money might be 100x, right? So let's bring them the thing that's 100x. Now we can eliminate 99 other people that we were going to work with and free so much of our schedule. That's going to be more valuable. So almost always everybody does this. They get into, how do I sell websites, chatbots, blah, blah, blah. You never ask your target market what, and by the way, a lot of you guys, because I understand like most people don't know how to do market research. We used to have to do this really fucking manually and take a lot of time, which is why I built my market research bot. It'll tell you what problems they have. Start there and then figure out how to solve it. And almost always it creates a 10-degree shift. The difference between I'll run Facebook ads and I'll run Facebook ads to get you a motorcycle case lands differently. Because one of those is a high value, high margin thing that solves a lot of their real world problems. So if you start with the tools, you'll almost always end up broke, just so you know, and you'll struggle to sell it. But the reason I say all that is because there's never a shortage of problems. And you're looking for underserved pockets. And, I've told the story before, but it illustrates this. It's at my brother's house and Chinese food driver, I don't know if he was texting or whatever, but he backed into my brother's car, which was an SUV, and the tailpipe of his SUV went through my girlfriend's car, which was her dream car, Volkswagen Beetlebug. When we started having some real world success, we bought her dream car. So she got the Volkswagen Beetlebug. That's what she always wanted. And insurance process says you got to bring it to 3 different shops and get quotes. We went to 3 shops. All 3 of them said the same thing. I don't work on Volkswagens. Too many specialty parts. Go to the guy on Drulard Road. I don't work on Volkswagens. Too many specialty parts. Go to the guy on Drulard Road. I don't work on Volkswagens. Too many specialty parts. Go to Drulard Road. We went to Drulard Road. Guy was backed up for 40 days. Said, yes, I can fix it. No, I won't be able to touch it for about a month and a half. Here's the paperwork. Give this to the car company or to the insurance company. We'll get you a loaner car. We had a loaner car for like a month and a half. Eventually got fixed. Most of these guys struggle to get anybody into their shop. This guy's backed up 40 days. Why? Because Volkswagens are underserved. That's a real problem in the niche. It's a real problem. Not enough people solve this problem. Those problems always exist. They always will. You just have to put your magnifying glass on and look for them. And then it tweaks your tools, because the difference between I got a chat bot and I got a chat bot for motorcycle cases. Sounds small in terms of execution, but it lands massively different for the client. So part of it is just realizing, like, stop selling the same shit as everyone else. And almost everybody sells the same shit as everyone else because they start with the tools first instead of people and problems. And you'll make way more money in this if you start with people and problems, like way more money. Because as MJ DeMarco said in Millionaire Fastlane, money follows needs. I'm always trying to identify client needs before I come up with tools that will solve those needs. Chances are you already have the tools. Like, I remember a plastic surgeon saying to me once, I want to sell mommy makeovers. Can you make a website to do that? I said, yes. He said, can you rank that website? Or actually, he said, first, are people even Googling it? I looked it up, said, yes, they are. He said, can you rank for it? I said, yes, I can. He said, here, I'll buy that. What I didn't know is he explained to me after the fact. He said a lot of the procedures he doesn't make any money off of because he has an operating room, like he has to rent space in the hospital. He has equipment to buy. He has lab. He has technicians. He said, often I'm working for free. He said, but these mommy makeovers, I make like 15 grand a pop. Like, I'll do those all day long. Like 15 grand, sign me up. Right. So the real world problem I was solving was not, I'm going to build you a website. It was, most of these procedures you don't make any money off. Do you really want to work for free? Do you really want to work for free? Really? Or would you rather, like, I build you a pipeline of the shit that you make 15 grand to pop off of? You tell me. 15 profit specifically. So you're not solving the problem you think you're solving, but there's always unmet needs. And by the way, like, my mommy makeover websites versus my normal websites, they weren't all that fucking different. Like, I didn't get any better at making websites. But too many people selling Me Too shit and then struggle with it. Frankie, we should probably pay for ChatGPT if we're making a hand raiser, I assume. Am I right? Now you can do it on the free version. My tools work on the free version. Plenty of people use it on the free one. I use the paid one because I'm running tons of shit all the time. But, you know, the paid one's like $20. But if you're starting out, like, spend as little on tools as humanly possible. I know most people tell you the opposite. Most people tell you the opposite because they're GHL affiliates and they're trying to get you to sign up for their software. But I would tell you the opposite. Buy tools only as you need them, as you absolutely fucking need them to do the next thing you want to do. But too many people, like, buy 17 tools and then go, okay, how do I go make some money? Like, go make some money and then bring in the tools that help support your making money, not the other way around. Chris, what's up? Says, I run YouTube ads for realtors. In another video, you mentioned YouTube ads getting very cheap clicks. Can you tell me about your YouTube ad strategy to get clicks for less than $1? Are you getting leads from them or only subs? In my case, Chris, so that is a little bit different than you'd be running for a realtor. It's a B2B strategy. B2B meaning I run it for my own shit to get clients. And there's probably about 4 or 5 things that make it really cheap. So one of those things, by the way, we don't just get clicks for less than $1. I get clicks for less than 5 cents. In fact, I actually, like, checked. We've had like 500,000 clicks for 5 cents, and my account is in Canadian. So that's like 3 3/4 cents US. So, like, I'm sub 4 cent clicks. So one of the things that makes that go is I am keeping the traffic on YouTube. So I send somebody from a YouTube video to another YouTube video because, like, we do the video close. So, like, I would take what would be a video pitch that's normally on a website and move it over to YouTube. And I drive people from a YouTube ad to a YouTube video. And the reason that works is, like, you get really cheap clicks if you're not trying to send them off the platform. YouTube charges you like a 10-20x fee to try and move them off the platform. So if you can convert through video and you keep them domestic, that's one piece of the puzzle. Second piece of the puzzle that I think is really, really important is who I'm targeting. So I call these side door opportunities, and they're everywhere. A lot of this I learned from conferences because I just hang out and I'd watch lawyers spend fuck tons of money with me, with other people. You watch it in person, you watch somebody spend, I don't know, 150 grand in 10 seconds in front of your eyes. You're like, whoa, I didn't even know that was possible until you start seeing it happen every day. But one of the things I learned is that the people who make for the best buyers buy the best of everything. They hire the best coaches, trainers, phone answering, et cetera, like best hiring service on down the line. And so Sometimes when you advertise like on keyword based auctions like YouTube, sometimes the simple and straightforward way is you just advertise it, what I call the front door. But a lot of times that front door is really, really expensive. So, like if I ran an ad for marketing for attorneys, I might spend like a fair bit of money. Like that's really competitive. But if I target a YouTube channel of somebody who already does, like for example, there's a company in that space called Consult Webs that does a lot of SEO. There's another one called Scorpion that makes a lot of websites. So if I run ads to you can do placements and I pick those two channels, generally speaking, those are not keywords. Nobody's trying to bid on Scorpion. Nobody's trying to bid on Consult Webs, but those are like guys who are going to spend money on websites and SEO. Like you wouldn't check out those channels otherwise. So my targeting is always placements and side door opportunities. That's one of the things that makes it work. I use my basic hand raiser formula as the creatives. And then another part is I've learned something I call the dramatic demonstration, where I visually show the outcome or I visually show the problem in a way where they go, that's me. And that's a big part of what drives our conversions too. Off the top of my head, that's a big part of it. You wouldn't be able to use all of that for like a B2B or a B2C, but you could certainly, like, if you can assist the conversion process by keeping them on YouTube, that alone will help you. And like, I would probably target a bunch of like home and garden kind of channels. Like people who are looking at those things tend to usually make good buyers. Paul says, so 75% of the question is buying their way. Oh, I just lost that. Where did I scroll? Okay, sorry, Paul. So 75% of the equation is buying their way out of their problem and 25% is buying their way into the outcome. I wanted to do GHL automations as my deliverable, like database reactivation, since it's close to the golf course. Should I mention that? In the outcome aspect is maximized, so it includes their $100 bill. It makes it so their automations get them out of their problems as well. Yeah, so I'll tell you, Paul, like one of the advantages when you do close to the hole stuff is speed. So here's a real problem that happens in every industry, okay? They phrase it different ways, but they'll go, I don't have work for my guys. So the dentist will say, I don't know, the hygienist chair is empty. I don't have work for my guys. The construction guy will say, I don't have work for my crews. I need work for my crews. The lawyer will say, I don't have work for my paralegal. The online entrepreneur will say, my virtual assistant is sitting with their thumbs up their asses. Okay. That's a common problem. By the way, every business has ebb and flow, like slow period, really busy period. Do you think they call a marketing agency when they're kicking ass and things are going well, or do you think they call when they're slow? As a general rule, almost always they call you when they're slow. In theory, they should call you when they're doing really well to keep the gravy train going. But the reality is they call you when they're slow. So if a business is slow, one of the advantages you have with running a database reactivation is speed. How quickly can you solve that problem? I can get you some bookings by Friday. That's a way better pitch than in 12 months from now, you'll be ranking number one and you'll have all the business you want. So one of the simple examples of how you can present that as like an automation is like, we can fix that next couple of days. You're already sitting on the leads we need to get. We got a guy, for example, he does kitchen remodeling, and they go to people's houses and they make quotes, and plenty of people don't move forward. And that doesn't mean, by the way, they're not going to buy a kitchen. A lot of times they get overwhelmed with options and prices and they need to just take a step back. You just reactivate those people, say, thank you, we appreciate you. Know you had a little bit of time to look at the kitchen. Wonder if we could stop by and show you kind of like what some of the next steps would look like. Percentage of people say, yeah, come on by, and they'll close, right? You just solved their, we don't have any work for our guys, and it took you fucking 2 days to do it. And you didn't have to go run any ads or get any strangers. So you got the right idea. Just one big aspect, like you mentioned, the outcome. Speed is part of your outcome, right? Like the SEO guys have mentioned that. It's a problem in SEO is that it's a 6 to 12 month commitment. You know, your promise is stronger if you can say, I can fix that like pronto, yesterday. TJ says, I got to come to the LA event. You darn right, motherfucker. If you do, you're getting a big ass bro hug. How do you train the VAs? Are they considered employees or contractors? My VAs are employees. I hire full-time people. I mean, I've had plenty of contractors. How do I train them? Um, so there's a process I use. I actually didn't come up with any of this. I learned it from a guy named John Jonas. He created the website onlinejobs.ph where you can hire Filipinos online. And he used to have a free blog where he laid out how to do this. And I learned most of it just reading his free blog. So one of the things he says is when you are hiring an employee, write in the ad, battle test people on what they're going to do. So this sounds like really straightforward when I say it, but nobody does this. So like what most companies do is they interview people, they ask for resumes, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And like they ask them all these stupid questions. If you're an animal, what kind of animal would you be? If you were a testicle, would you be the low-hanging left testicle or the right testicle, and why? And they ask all these useless questions. But if I'm hiring, like, say, a virtual assistant to edit videos, then I put right in the ad, I want you to edit this video and send it to me. And I make what I call a trial assignment. Like, I'll give you $5, edit this video, show me how to edit a video. So I battle test people right on the thing they're going to do on step one. That eliminates 90% of the people, just so you know. Either they don't finish it or they're unreliable. You'd be amazed the shit comes up. Somebody's like, sir, I finished the task, but I can't figure out how you're supposed to pay me. Well, do you have a Wise account? No. Do you have a PayPal account? No. Do you have any Western Union where you're at? No. Well, if you can't figure out how to get paid, how did you figure you were going to work for me? Right? So like people will rule themselves out for the simplest thing. Then everything that we do in our agency has a video or a document that explains it step by step. I consider this like if you ran a restaurant and you wanted all your cooks to make food consistently the same way, you're not going to do that unless you have recipes written down. So my SOPs, as they're called, standard operating procedures, for those of you guys who've never heard those terms, they're really like recipes at a restaurant. We write down, this is how you do it. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And everything we do has one of those documented. And that's how I bring people in, is I screen them and then I give them a recipe. And by the way, that alone will eliminate like 90% of your hiring problems. Most people, they either don't test people on the thing and then they find out after they don't know how to do it, or they don't have recipes and they just go, make me something good, right? Like anybody guys ever got hired for a website and a client says, make me a nice website? That's the kiss of death right there, because they don't know what they fucking want. What is a good website? That's like different things to different people. But if you're clear, this is what I want. You got, I want a blue one like this with this section, blah, blah, blah. The more you can be clear and specific, the easier it is to actually, do it. So those are the two biggest things. They're not the only two things, but two biggest things that make good VAs. Test them, train them, give them the step-by-steps. Tanya says, what do you think about the sell angle people use? Like, we only accept one plumbing business per city as to not have a conflict of interest with their competitors. I've used it. I don't think it's like that alone will make the sale, but I've done it where, like, I can think of in Beverly Hills when I used to do plastic surgery. I had like 4 clients in Beverly Hills and it was hard to rank them all because I was competing with myself. So and inevitably, like, somebody drops off and says, it's not working for me. And they're like your 4th or 5th client in the area and you're competing against yourself. So sometimes it's actually in your own self-interest that you do it. I don't think it's a make or break detail in the sale, because if they don't want to work with you, it's kind of like I see new agency owners mess with their logo for like 6 months. Nobody's going to look at you and be like, oh, you have the shittiest service ever and you don't know what you're doing, but that logo, I got to hire you. So that's one of those things that might push somebody over the edge, but I don't think it's a make or break detail. But I think if you're doing something like SEO or running ads, it's actually not a bad idea. At most, I would take 2, or in a really, really big city where they might be spread out, maybe 3. But it's for your own interest, because otherwise you're going to start competing against yourself and you don't want to do that. Oh, shit. We had a whole bunch of chat. Jaded Vapor. Cool name. Frankie, really appreciate what you're doing for noobs like me, trying to build Loom to offer voice AI receptionists to landscapers, having trouble overthinking it. Is there any way I could email you and possibly get you to send you an example of one that is working? Yes, I'll tell you, just because we're doing some of it in the trades. I shouldn't. When I say we, I mean mastermind folks. Like, I'm connected to a lot of people doing this. Generally speaking, the sales pitch is, on the problem side, here's all the spam calls you're getting, and we specifically call out like Angie's List, people looking for a job, SEO, robocalls. And then on the other side is the types of people we're going to help them book in the calendar. And in there, mention how much they hate answering their phone because it's spam so often. And then we give her a name. Hey, in our case, Samantha. Hey, why talk to those people when Samantha can do it with a smile on her face for a fraction of the cost? And you never have to talk to Angie's List ever again. And you don't have to retrain her, and she works evenings and weekends 24/7, and she can take 27 calls at once. When would you like us to start? That's basically the pitch, And then an example call, like, here, you're probably wondering, what does she sound like? Let me show you. Here's how we set it up for you. Here's how much it costs. Here's what you get for it. If you'd like to get started, click the yellow button. But for sure, send that over if you want. What do you think about doing intro cold calls as a hand raiser, like quick 3-minute intro, letting the biz owner, I can solve specific problem. Can I send you a video to show? Just so you know, Tanya, everything I do is a hand raiser. So if I was cold calling, it would be a hand raiser. If I meet them face to face, it's a hand raiser. If I run an ad, it's a hand raiser. A lot of times people get confused because I do a lot of different shit. Like, sometimes I'll do direct mail. I'm one of the few guys who does direct mail. I'll run YouTube ads. Not a lot of people run YouTube ads. We run Facebook ads. We do a little bit of outreach. All of them start with a hand raiser and validating it. So like, if like previously, the question above you, Tanya, like if it was, I was trying to sell an AI voice solution and I was cold calling, I wouldn't say, hey, do you want an AI voice solution? That's a tool. Nobody's ever going to care about the tools. I'd start with the problem as a hand raiser. I'd say, hey, Mr. Landscaper, shot in the dark here, but just wondering, do you get a lot of calls all day long from Angie's List, people looking for a job, SEO spam, and like robocalls? Like, are most of your calls like that by chance? And if he says, yeah, why do you ask? And I said, if I could show you a way to just replace those with bookings with homeowners where you're just driving to their house to go quote them a job, and you didn't have to talk to all those spammers anymore, would you be interested in hearing more about that? That's a fucking hand raiser, just so you know. Like, that's all I'm doing. If you got this problem, would you rather have this outcome? So yeah, I like that idea. I mean, that's how I do everything. Now, that doesn't mean that's how it stays that way forever, but a hand raiser is how I validate the interest in the first place. Why do I spend so much energy on YouTube if your business crushing? I actually don't spend a lot of energy on YouTube. I show up once a week and talk to you guys. And I batch record videos once a month for like 2-3 hours. So I don't know, it's like 10 hours a month. It brings me a ton of shit, ton of opportunities, partnerships. Also, just being real with you, I actually, it's a fair and valid question. So like, just, like, take you guys back how I got into this. This was like 9-10 years ago, but I had figured out 2 ways to generate a lot of business. So one was a webinar funnel. We were running Facebook ads to a webinar funnel. And the second way is, we were like speaking on stage. So I was at some stuff like shoe store events, as I would call them. And we were doing like really, really, really fucking well with those 2 things. And I had quite a few people said, Frankie, I want that webinar funnel for myself. Can you teach me? And at that point in time, I had more than 100 clients. We were fucking drowning in fulfillment. I couldn't hire people fast enough. My phone was blowing up constantly with client questions and shit. And like, things were breaking because we had scaled so fast. And somebody's like, can you teach me your webinar thing? I was like, no, I don't have time for that. It's like, and they're like, I can pay you. I'm like, it wouldn't even be worth my time. Like, I can run ads and make 10x the fucking money that you would ever pay me. And after like, I don't know, a couple dozen friends asked me, I decided if I could teach all of them at once and it was more efficient, I would do it. So I put together a live event. It was in Toronto, Canada. And it was a 3-day event. And it was like, I'm going to help you build this webinar funnel workshop style. A day and a half into the event, we were finished. And I was like, oh shit, what do you guys want to do now? I was like, I don't have any content. I don't have any speakers. Like, this is it. We're at the end of the show and we're only a day and a half in. And one of the guys says, hey, I got an agency question, blah, blah, blah. Can you ask me about this? And another guy, hey, I got an agency question. And it turned into like this, basically an agency Q&A. I thought nothing of it. I went right back to running my agency. And a couple weeks later, I got messages from 3 of the people. We had 12 people in the room. They all spent like $5,000 to be there. One of them said, holy shit, I just closed my first 4 people. They all just paid in full for like $10,000. I just made 40 grand. And this was like a single mom who like never seen that kind of money in her life. I just made 40 grand in the last 3 days. Like, ooh, she was like, holy shit. Second person messaged me. I didn't know this, but he had been selling a bunch of SEO, like to like small local mom and pops for like $500 a piece. And they were running him ragged. And I showed him how to get the bigger ones that were easier to deal with. And he got 2 government contracts for $10,000 recurring. And he didn't tell me this, but his wife and him were trying for a baby and they couldn't do it naturally. So they went for in vitro. And she said, I'll make a baby with you when this business is more financially stable. They said that for years and years and years. As soon as he signed those 2 guaranteed contracts and knew he had $20,000 a month for the next 3 years, they made a baby. They had a daughter. They bought a rental house. They did all these things they were putting off. He sends me the longest, most heartfelt thank you and said, I would not have been able to do that without you. Third guy got a partnership with a big roofing company. He actually has since just started his own roofing business. He's been working in roofing 10 years and tells me how much it changed his life and how helpful it was to understand who makes the ideal target client. And for all 3 of them, I actually don't even really remember what I said because it was really obvious shit that like after like, 13 years of doing it, it was just like 12, 13 years of doing it, it was really obvious. But after I got those messages, I made a decision that I would do more of this. Because it's like, it's very much a purpose thing for me. It was like, I had no idea that was going to make such a difference. Like in my mind, we were just getting together to do this fucking webinar thing, and answering their questions was just a secondary. Now, what do you want to do? Right? Like, do you guys want to hang out? Do you want to do some other business shit? Do you want to look at your funnels? Like, what do you guys want to do? Having said that, just so you know, Tyler, I'm at a stage now where like, my business is not in a box anymore. And like, I wrote about it in my second book, but I have way more income that comes from digital assets now. And digital assets have divorced income from effort from me. So like most of my income comes without me doing anything. Like I'm not all of it. So like, I don't shoot my mouth off to answer your question, but I'm not trying to build a traditional agency like I once did. The last 3 years are in the 4 years have been out of the box in the partnership, in the digital asset phase. I consider myself more of an investor. I just do shit because I want to do it. It gives me energy and I like it. So I do it. So that's the answer to your question. But no, I don't need to do this shit, just so you know. But I like it. I mean, I'm like I say, I'm professionally qualified to shoot my mouth off. That's internet degenerate shooting his mouth off. That's what I'm most qualified for. Once you confirm the $100 bill in a certain niche, what outreach method do you recommend that works best for local businesses? Seems like almost every outreach method is just noise to business owners. Yeah, I mean, that's why I bring them to me. I narrow it down in a niche. And the analogy I used, like when I told you guys, we sold more chocolate bars standing in front of the grocery store. I go stand in front of the grocery store and people go, hey, I found you at the grocery store. I don't like one-to-one message people anymore. Like I would way rather get on an industry podcast or write in an industry magazine or be interviewed or get recommended or speak on stage. Like those to me are much better ways for them to see you as an expert. That's kind of a loaded thing. Just, I'm going to do a training on that over the next 2 weeks at some point. They say you can only make Loom calls when you have a following already to give you credibility. Is that true? We have tons of people doing it without. So like most of the people in my world are doing it without a following. But I will say that, having a following helps. And I don't think it's a bad idea to build one. I wish more agencies built one. But having said that, you can start selling on day one. The point of a Loom video is the magic of it is you have to really nail your offer, and then you have to figure out how to demonstrate your offer so it's crystal fucking clear in seconds. And it actually takes quite a bit of work to get that level of clarity. But once you have it, sales are downhill because the offer is doing the selling. The example I always use is McDonald's. McDonald's doesn't train salespeople. They don't know how to fucking sell. They put a sign on every time you drive by a McDonald's. Look, the sign underneath, like they got the arches, and right underneath, there's an offer on the sign, like 100 times out of 100. Hey, get 2 McDoohickeys, $4.99, right? They want the offer to do the selling, not the fucking pimply faced teenager in the drive-through. And by the way, then they make more offers. They say, would you like to upsize? Would you like to supersize? Would you like to make it a combo, right? Would you like to try an apple pie? They do that, and they upsell you and cross-sell you. And the offers are doing the selling through the whole way out, not the fucking pimply faced teenager, not the sales process. Loom videos are the same. It's like you get better at making offers. You get more people to say yes. Remember to like the video. Thank you, TJ. I appreciate that. Paul says, when I sell, should I sell by framing the desirable outcome as solving their problem, or sell both by solving their problems and getting them a desirable? I try and do both. Generally speaking. But a lot of times, if you know the problem, you know the outcome. Like Lana, for example, in our mastermind, she works with yoga studios that have like multiple locations. So like say they got 8 locations and they say, you know, our West End location is almost empty. It's like there's like 3 people every Tuesday. If they tell you there's only 3 people in a class on a Tuesday, like what do you think they want as an outcome? They want a full class on a Tuesday, right? It should be pretty obvious. If you know the problem, you know what they want. So it's like, hey, if we could take that half-empty Tuesday class and fill it up using some Facebook ads, would you be interested in that? That's the offer, not I'll run some Facebook ads for you and get you more leads, more sales, more clients. True words. Dude playing with 38 special that weekend. Sorry, man. Next time. What's up, Matt? Just so you guys know, Matt is a smart, fucking talented dude who has already sold an agency that he's had big success within the med spa industry. I love your Monday consistency. That's a big part of success in general, is just showing up for the same thing period of time. It's like, you know, you look at January 1st, there's all these people who say, this is the year, my New Year's resolution, I'm going to lose some weight. And then they don't fucking stick with it. It's like, if they just stuck with it, it would work. And too many people are sold this lie that agency services are just cold DM a person, jump on a call, here's my credit card. And that does happen, but usually that's after years of being in an industry where you know how to talk to them so deeply but for the most part, it's usually consistency over time. How do you find business owners who are profitable enough to invest in SEO, but also aren't too busy to a point where they need more employees? Sounds like a very specific financial spot to be in. I identify them by 2 things. Okay. I always say trust behavior, not words. 1, the right clients are spending money now. You do not need to convince clients to spend money. They should be doing it. They should be running ads, doing some SEO, posting on social media before you showed up. If you have to convince them to do those things, they will fight you on those things. So are they spending money now? So I'll give you a cheat code for that. I'll give you a couple of cheat codes. Do they have pixels on their website? Pixels only get there if you're spending money. Another one, do they have a CRM? They're spending money. They need a place to store those leads. One of my simple litmus tests to tell how serious a business is, say, what CRM do you use, right? If they say, oh, we really like Job Nimbus, that's a good answer. If they say, CRM, what the fuck's a CRM? That's a bad answer. You shouldn't work with that person as a general rule. Second thing, have a team. If they have a team, they're used to paying people to solve problems because now time has become the bottleneck, not money. And so we need to hire people. If you just stick to those 2 things, work with people who spend money and have teams, which is only about 10 to 20% of any industry, most of your problems with clients will go away, and most of your I can't afford it will also go away. So I identify those people on step 1 and only market to those people. If you were to start over, what niche would you pick and why, not including SEO? I don't know. I mean, I think, like, again, people think that there's some super secret niche that has money that others don't. And it's more just like you get repeatability out of picking a niche. One of the underrated aspects of picking niche, in my experience, is say you decide you're going to work with dentists. There's a certain kind of conversation you're going to have for the next 2 years of your life. You're going to talk about patients. You're going to talk about teeth. You're going to talk about insurance. You're going to talk about like that pokey thing they put in people's mouths. I have no idea what the fuck that thing's called. If you decide you're going to work with plumbers, you're going to talk about clogs and trucks and crews and the Snake 9000. You're going to talk about that shit. I always say the best niches are the ones you actually like talking to them about the stuff you like talking about. So for me, I like financial shit. I like making money shit, investing, you know, most of the shit I do is like around those kind of things, investing, make money, real estate. Like those are things I like being in, but it's not because those are inherently better niches. It's just like, I could talk about them all day forever. So it makes it easier for me to be successful because if you have to talk to a dentist and you hate talking about teeth, you're going to have a hard time growing that agency. But it's not because like one niche is better than the other, but that's the direction I'd lean. Where do you find people with problems and put a solution in front of them without paid ads? If you were to start all over from zero, you probably hear this all the time. I do hear this all the time, just so you know. There are 7 ways you can grow an agency. So you're going to have to do one of them, just so you know. And the one you should pick is not, that's what the guru told me. That's more like, pick the one that best fits your style. So you can do one-to-one. This is what is most commonly taught in our space. I actually do not recommend this, but it's easy to understand and it's free. So one-to-one is cold calling, cold DMing, cold emailing, sending them a message on LinkedIn, sending them a message on Instagram, and doing that one at a time. That's the most commonly taught thing on our space. Thing number 2, you post content and you do it consistently over time. You're looking at it. I post content. People come to me. I don't have to chase it. But I'll tell you one thing with content is almost everybody gives up too soon. They do it for like 30 days and nothing happens in the first 30 days and then they all give up. But in reality, it's like it takes 6 to 12 months for content to compound long enough. But if you do it, you'll create endless inbound. You'll notice almost all the top people you listen to, Hormozy, Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, whoever the fuck it is in any industry, they make lots of content and have for a long time. Right? That's not a coincidence. Thing number 3, run ads. Obviously, you said you're not going to do ads, I think, without paid ads, but I'm just letting you know that is an option. Facebook primarily is most used, but you can also use Google ads. Some people do that. LinkedIn, YouTube ads. There's different ways. Number 4, you network. You go face to face. BNI meetings, Chamber of Commerce if you got local meetups, or if you want to work with plumbers, you go to the plumbers conference, you go to PlumCon 2027, shit like that. 5, referral partners. You get people in the industry that know the people you want to do. You do them some cool favors. And then when they say, how can I pay you back? You say, send me some peeps. That's the general way. And then my favorite way, number 6, audience owners. You find people who have audiences. You publish stuff in their space. People find it, come to you. Sometimes they recommend you. Sometimes they can also be referral partners. And then the 7th way is you go to places where they go to hire, Craigslist, Upwork, things like that. I don't really recommend this either because you tend to get people who are competing on price, but it does work to get clients. Like if you go on Upwork and you bid on jobs, you will make some money. You probably get cheapskate pain in the ass clients. Fiverr, same kind of thing. You have to do one of those 7 things. So it's up to you which one of those 7 things you're going to do. I say pick the one that best fits your style. I'll tell you, for me, I like audience owners. That's my go-to. It's like the fastest way to get in front of a lot of them and scale it. And as a general example of this, when I did the 90-day challenge in restoration, people asked me, what would you do if you're me starting over at 0? So that's what I did. Started over at 0 and got it to like, I don't know, 15, 16,000 a month. I published stuff on other people's things. I remember I actually published something I created a YouTube channel. I published a video and went and checked it a week later. It had 3 views, probably 2 of them were bots. I published something in the industry association. We did a little 5-minute Ask the Expert interview. It had 10,000 views 2 days later. I didn't get any better from one video to the next. They just already had an audience to show the damn video to. And so they email and tweet about it and whatever, and people go watch it. Now I get 10,000 people. You get in front of 10,000 people, don't be surprised if 5 or 10, 15 of them reach out to you and say, I want to work together. How do we work together? But that's how we do it. Tyler says, really appreciate your in-depth answer. I've learned a lot, or I've learned a ton from you. Appreciate that, dude. How do you keep communication with your clients? Can I get my 100 $100 bill with close to the golf automations. Of course, we got people with 1,000+ clients doing close to the whole stuff. How do you keep communications with your clients? That's kind of a loaded question, Paul, just because it depends on how long your shit takes to work. The longer your shit takes to work. So if you're doing SEO, you're going to actually probably have to communicate with the client 50 to 100 times about the result before it's visible and tangible. So you're going to have to like reset expectations and let them know you're building and let them know. I compare it to like, I wrote about this in my book, but where I was living here before, I remember it was like new construction area, like little kind of quiet little suburb. And my neighbors were mostly not there. So they're like snowbirds. They're here like, 3 weeks a year, 6 weeks a year, and then they fuck off. So I see them around Christmas time and then they're gone. And I remember said hello to my neighbor and I was just planning on making small talk. I said, hey, just curious how I was getting a house built. And he looked at me and he went, it was the worst fucking experience of my life. And I was like, why? That seems like a weird thing to say. And he explains to me that he sent all his money sight unseen to buy this house in Mexico. And he said, I didn't hear from them for months and months and months. And he said, eventually he got a thing in the mail. And it was like this really technical printout about building specs and shit. He said he gave it to his friend who speaks Spanish. And they were like, I still have no idea what this even says. So I said, what happened? He said he drove down after a year and came to confront the builder. And I said, what happened? He said, the house was built perfectly. And he said it was the worst fucking experience of his life. So there's a tendency to think that if you just build the house, do awesome SEO, do awesome GHL or whatever, clients will love you, but you need to communicate the house is being built. Hey, this is your property. Hey, we're putting in the foundation today. Hey, the walls are going up. Hey, this is Jimmy. He's putting in some electrical. So it's very akin to that. Like if you're communicating with clients, you got to let them know what's being built and why, and that you're on a timeline. And by the way, what most people do is radio silence and then end of month report. And realistically, especially in the beginning, when they don't trust you, you got to touch clients at least twice a week. And I have tools for creating all those, but that's a Wolfpack special for the people who have those. TJ says, Frankie, what would you prioritize first if you needed to make your first 5K from clients this month? 2 things, like making a meaningful offer and then getting as much distribution for that offer as humanly possible. Like that's basically what I did in the 90-day challenge. Figure out a meaningful offer and get it in front of a lot of people for cheap and free as I could. That's it. That's really all I did. Those 2 things. Kyle says, thanks, Frankie. Appreciate you, dude. Stay away from 2-person businesses to sell anything. Best niche is a $1,000 offer, a better product or service that is repeatable on the same customer base over and over. That's why plumbing, med spa, etc. Yeah. I mean, he's telling you guys that from experience, by the way. That is not from I'm guessing at this. That's I've done that. And if you don't make it repeatable, your fulfillment life will be miserable and you won't be able to scale. And if you charge too cheap for it, you won't be able to bring in help and you won't be able to scale it without help. So you need those 2 things. It needs to be repeatable and it needs to be high enough price. Ergo, do the same shit over and over. Make it boring. Boring factory is where you want your business to be. Get your drama from elsewhere. Get it from your sitcoms or your fucking Netflix shows or your time at the strip club or whatever. Make your business a boring factory and get your drama in your real life. Do audience owners work with newbies or is that a later strategy? It works right on day one, but I'll tell you one of the nuances why a lot of beginners struggle with it. Most beginners think very tactically and not strategic. And the difference between tactical and strategic is literally just the number of steps you can think of at once. Tactical people are always thinking in terms of one step. What's this? Like, it's almost like a guy who's going, what's the magic pickup line I got to say to get laid? That's a one-step question. Strategic is like, okay, how do I get her number? What's a good place to set up a date? How do I escalate this? How do I turn that into a relationship? How do I ask her to marry me? Like, if you want to get married, you got to think in like steps, right? Partnerships are always, audience owners are almost always steps, not single action. And so cold outreach tends to get taught the most because it's the easiest to understand. It's one step. Hey, do you want to buy my shit? It's like just like digital door knocking. Do you want to buy my shit? What about you? Want to buy my shit? buy my shit? You buy my shit? Problem is, it's a fucking grind. And it's like, if a guy's like running around at the bar at 1:30 in the morning asking girls, hey, do you want to sleep with me? And his goal is to get married with good long-term prospects, like that ain't a very good strategy to do it. I mean, if you do it enough, you will find a partner, but like you're dependent on a lot of grinding and a lot of volume. So most of what's taught in our space is tactical, single step, say this, do this, follow my script. And it's popular because beginners can wrap their fucking head around it, but it's not the smartest way of doing it. So yes, you can do partnerships right out of the gate. Yes, you can work with audience owners. There's basically 3 stages you got to take them through. Coffee date. We co-create something. Money is not discussed. Let me publish something in your magazine. Let me be on your podcast. Let me help you with your event. There's no monetary exchange. Step 2, I could do this for somebody. And that, by the way, that conversation does not happen immediately after. It's like, it might be a week between these 2 conversations. But I call that the first date. And there's the marriage. I could do this for everybody and I can make you look really good. And you have to, like, from the time you first meet them, coffee date, till recommend me is often like 4 to 6 weeks later. So you have to be able to think in terms of steps. Most people can't, by the way. Most people, like, they're in this desperation of like, I need money now. And they work so much harder than they need to because they can't like have a month and a half of patience to build a real pipeline. But I'll tell you, the flip side of that is I've been doing this now like 8 years, and I've had people message me and they'll go, I just need some money now. And I go, well, build a fucking pipeline, a real pipeline. And they go, yeah, but I just need money now. Like, that sounds like too much work and that'll take weeks. And then a year later, I talk to that same person. They're like, I just need money now. And I go, did you build that pipeline I told you last time? No, because I needed money now. Well, look where you're at again. And then they'll go, okay, this time I'll build a pipeline, I swear. And then they don't. And a year later, I talk to them again. They're like, I just need money now. I'm like, if you had built the pipeline, this would have been fixed 6 weeks ago, or this would have been fixed 6 weeks after we've had that first conversation. You wouldn't be having this conversation 2.5 years later. So it's like, what's really faster? Like, build a real asset that works continuously over time, or knocking on doors. The other thing with like the tactical stuff, it almost always dries up after you stop. So you knock on the fucking door. As soon as you stop knocking on doors, your pipeline goes to zero. For me, I made a video about this. Like, I ain't bragging. It's just true. I make money 365 days a year. Every day is payday. Literally every day in my life is payday. I have some like low days where they're just like a couple $100, but there's not a day that goes by where I don't get something every day, every single day. And most of that is not effort I'm doing now. It's pipelines I built before that create the conveyor belt so that like money comes in today. Like, that's why I'm so big on like, do the strategic shit and build the pipeline, because like it has a lasting compounding effect, unless you want to fucking just do this again and again. Okay. What expectations should we have while using Instagram DMs targeting dermatologists using your strategy, hand raiser? Well, I wouldn't be Instagram DMing them, but hand raisers are my strategy for sure. Generally speaking, just so you know, like a lot of that they just ignore and it's noise. Like 2 to 3 responses out of 100 positively is a pretty decent number on that scale, which is why I'm not a huge fan of like bulk messaging people. I'd rather get in front of 100 at once and let the 2 or 3 who are interested self-identify. So like when I used to speak on stage a lot more, I still do a little bit of it, but I used to do it a lot more. And when you get off stage, like, it's not uncommon 5, 10, 15 of them are waiting to work with you. That was way more fun to me than trying to message everybody in the room and figure out who the 10 who are interested. I'll just let the 10 I'll just make one presentation to all of them at once, and the 10 who are interested will come find me. That to me is a way more fun. You're the GOAT, Frankie. I hope you mean greatest of all time and not just like a farm animal. Can I communicate with clients with AI? For sure. We actually have systems we've built to do that. We're kind of rolling out to some of our mastermind members, but yeah, for sure. If you know what you're supposed to be saying, you just get AI to do that. Tell us about white label AI, just GHL AI or something else. White label, I'll tell you, like, I actually think it's a huge opportunity. So there's all these white label agencies that do SEO, pay-per-click, web design. I think businesses are, when they realize everything AI can do, there's going to be an explosion of hiring agencies to do it. And most of the agencies aren't going to know how to build shit with AI. And I think white label AI agencies are going to explode. If it was me and I wanted to build something, I would probably get in on that sooner than everyone else. That's what I'll tell you. Where can we find buy this 90-day challenge you did? I've heard you mention it a few times. You don't have to buy it. It's totally free. I just documented it just because, like my whole purpose was I literally got asked the same question between 500 and 1,000 times that I just got tired of answering it. So I was like, I'll document it and do it. If anybody asks, you can go find the documentation. Okay, thanks for all the awesome advice, Frankie. By the way, my business partner loves the Loom method. Haha, got to go find some clients now. Yeah, who doesn't love replacing sales with videos? What I wish I knew, TJ, years ago is that clients like it better too. They're like, I didn't really want to talk to you any more than you wanted to talk to me. I was like, I got a busy day, a schedule, shit to do. I just want to know how much it is. So thank you for making it a video. Now I can check it out tonight. I'll let you know. What's a good strategy to get on stages and podcasts if you have the experience in your industry, Colin? Good question, dude. So useful to know is behind the scenes what happens. So part of the reason I know what to do on this, Colin, is I got involved with an industry association in legal. If you guys want to look them up, they're called PILMA, Personal Injury Lawyers Marketing and Management Association, PILMMA. And, they have events and coaching and workshops and they got a big PILMA Super Summit every year. They do a big annual conference. So all year round, we were selling tickets for the PILMA Summit, Super Summit, year round, like 8 months a year. By the way, most of the tickets sell between 2 and 8 weeks out, but nonetheless, we were trying to sell tickets every day. And one of the things would surprise you is the same people come to the same events. And people would say to us stuff like, I'm not going to come to the Super Summit this year. It's the same speakers as last year. So I'll wait till they have somebody new and I'll skip it this year. So behind the scenes, what's happening every single event, every single time is we're going, oh my God, we need 5 to 10 new speakers to talk about something that they haven't heard before. Who do we got? Who do we know? Is there anybody? Who do you know? Do you got somebody? What do you got? And we're like all brainstorming, like we need some exciting shit to tell them. So if you know that, if you want to get booked on stage, it's almost like being like in the news where you have to have something different, trending, timely, and exciting. And you just pitch them and say, hey, I'd love to come speak to your people. And they literally fucking need you. Like they need you to be able to sell tickets. So it's actually not that hard to get on stage once you know what they're looking for. You just say, hey, I was looking at the Super Summit. Looks like you got the same lineup as last year. And I bet you guys need, some new exciting stuff to talk about to bring in some fresh blood. What do you think about this topic idea? And if it's something they haven't heard before. So like for me, when I was doing this in restoration, I just scrolled their website and I was like, none of these fuckers are talking about AI. I was like, I'm in these marketing communities and every motherfucker is talking about AI. But in this contract world, not one person has mentioned it. How the fuck is nobody talking about AI? So I wrote the first article and I did the first stage talk about AI in the entire industry. And of course, I talked about using AI to create content for your SEO because I was trying to sell SEO. So it was like leading into my thing. But they need you, dude. But you can't show up and say, hey, I'm going to talk about the same thing you've heard 100 times. It has to be like, this is new, exciting, trending. And what I do is I just scan their speaker list and go, what's missing? What are they not talking about that should be being talked about here? And then I go, hey, I got an idea for that. I want to work with shoe stores, but kind of uncomfortable getting on stage or a podcast. Yeah, I mean, that's normal, dude. We all get a little nervous. Putting yourself out there will step on a lot of emotional shit. But it's if you want to have every day as payday, as I see TJ's comment below, like putting yourself out there is part of it. Goal 365 partnership deals. Even small deals could be every day. You actually don't need 360. I'll tell you right now, you can be inundated with work from like one or two partnerships. Like we got a guy in our mastermind, when he met me, he was doing like 80, 90,000 a year. So he was like, he was like hovering a little below six figures. He's doing 3.5 million a year. He's got two partnerships. So like, imagine if he had 363 more of those. You'd be fucking drowning. Is having sales every day related to offers with easy fulfillment like digital products, or would that work with services too? It can be done with services, but it's certainly harder. You have to have your fulfillment in order. It is definitely better suited towards not just digital products, but anything you don't have to fulfill on. I wrote my second book. I guess I don't have it on me right this second. Passive automated recurring income. It's on Amazon. You guys can grab it. You can also go, if you guys want to get a digital copy, I'll just put a link for you below. I'm just going to put Perry, which is the acronym title of the book. But it lays out how to make money with digital assets. And it's all about, there's tons of motherfuckers with audiences who don't know what to sell. And there's tons of people with shit to sell who need audiences. And you put yourself in the middle. The analogy I use is like, I don't know, we used to have these dances in grade school where you could get out of a half day of school if you went to the dance. And every dance started the same, like, grade 7 and grade 8, boys and girls. Boys all line up on one side, girls on the other. In theory, like the boys are looking at the girls and the girls are looking at the boys, and they should just go talk to each other, but they don't unless somebody has the balls in the middle to like introduce them and broker it. I call that deal making. And those opportunities are everywhere. Every time you scroll YouTube, every time you scroll Facebook, every time you scroll Instagram, there's an opportunity to monetize a digital asset. Doesn't matter if it's yours. You can sell other people's shit, including services, but by selling their shit, there is no fulfillment. That is the essence of deal making. And that's the latest evolution I've operated in the last like 4 or 5 years. I hesitated actually writing my second book on it because I don't feel like I've got deal making by any stretch of the imagination mastered, but I am really good at it. And I was like, should I even write this book? Because like agency stuff, I could talk about for the next 20 years because I've just lived and breathed it. But I'm like, deal making, I'm kind of new at it. But I was like, no, this needs to be written. So I wrote it. But having said that, it works best when there's zero fulfillment. And if you're a deal maker, you're not limited to your own fulfillment. Like if you're selling a service, you're selling your own service. But I'll give you an example of this. I made a video on it. We got another channel, by the way, in case you guys didn't know, also called Passive Automated Recurring Income. But I showed this to Ryan. Ryan reached out to a Facebook group. It was a 29,000 person small business group, what I would call an audience owner distribution. I give it different names, but he found somebody they got the people. And he said to him, hey, I got a way to help you monetize your group and make you look good. Can I tell you about it? The guy said, yeah. He said, what if we built like a guide of like trusted resources? And Ryan's like us, so he knew other marketers. So he went to somebody who does website and SEO, and he said, hey, I want to put you on our recommended partners list and sell your shit to our people. If I did that, would you give me a kickback? And the guy's like, yeah, I'll give you $2,000 anytime we close somebody. So Ryan then made a little simple Loom video and said, hey, we got these trusted partners. If you guys need a website, you need SEO, I got these guys over here. They'll help you do it. And here's why we like them and recommend them. If you want to know more, let me know. Just send me a message. So he had 3 people message him and go buy it. Ryan made $6,000. He gave the group owner said, he wanted, if there was any sales, I forget how they came to the number. The group owner wanted $800. So Ryan got to keep $5,200. It took him less than an hour to do that. He made $5,200 and there's no fulfillment. There's no fulfillment. Ryan doesn't have to make a website. He doesn't have to do any SEO. So it does work with services. It's a whole other thing like deal making, but it uses the same principles. It's just operating in a different way. But yes, every day's payday can be done with services, but it's a little more nuanced than sell your service. If we want to send you a hand raiser, it is best to email it, add you on Facebook, both, either or, whatever's easier. So instead of Insta DMs, Facebook group posts or reaching out to influencers in the niche. I'll tell you why I like reaching out to influencers in the niche, because you get their borrowed credibility and endorsement, which is underrated. Like I always say, like if Warren Buffett goes on TV and says, "Hey, I'm investing $1 billion in Frankie's business. I think you should too." You know what's going to happen to my bank account by tomorrow morning? Right? So if the top guy in the industry has you on their podcast, say, "Hey, this is Frankie and he's awesome and you should listen to him," has the same kind of effect. Or if they see you in the industry magazine or they see you speak on stage, like, "Oh, he must know what he's talking about. He's an expert." Most people don't know how easy those things are to get. When I went into the restoration space, the message I said, "Hey, Jeff," this is the magazine guy, "is there any chance of writing for you? I'll write some top-notch stuff that makes you look good. Not looking for pay, just want the exposure." 3 sentences. That's how I got a magazine article. Sure. Here's how to submit it. Go for it. So, and then, by the way, that magazine goes out to 30,000 people. And because I was the first one to talk about AI in the industry, they put it on the front cover. That front cover led to a speaking thing. It led to people reaching out to me. That was 3 sentences. Like, how long would it have taken for me to message 30,000 of those people one at a time? The answer is a long fucking time. And I wouldn't get the same level of credibility. I'm on the front cover. I must be a big deal. That's me with my picture. Paul says the best combo like this: solve their problem 75% of the equation, get them their outcome, preferably their $100 bill, and make it close. That is the formula, dude, right there. That is the formula for easy to sell, easy to fulfill, and high leverage in terms of getting them results fast. That's it. Solve a problem, get you the highest outcome, and do it using the resources you already have. And by the way, that's easier to do than what most people do. Like from a fulfillment point of view, is like after they say yes. Because like, you know, like I mentioned, we got a guy does kitchen remodeling. Before he runs ads to go get strangers, what about the fucking 500 people you've already quoted kitchen jobs? Did you ever contact any of those people again? No, you didn't. Well, that's a $40,000 job. Do you think if we message some of those people, like some of them might still be interested in buying a kitchen? How about if I just did that for you? You know, and they need work yesterday and we can get you the big jobs and you already got the resource. Awesome. Love your mindset about leverage and deal making. Yeah, I'll tell you, I didn't always have this mindset about it. There's some things that have happened, but what I came to realize that anytime you make sales that are divorced from effort, those have infinite scale. So like I have a lot of like little affiliate streams. Like if you go on GHL and you look at the leaderboard, my name is nowhere near the fucking leaderboard. But I got lots of little things. Like yesterday, like I recommended a tool to some of my audience people called CloseBot. CloseBot's like, it's a gangster AI tool that does text-based follow-up. So if you got a lead who says, "I'm interested," CloseBot will book them into the calendar on behalf of your clients. So say like a real estate agent has somebody message them interested in their house. CloseBot will handle all the text and book them a face-to-face showing and do that automatically. And I'm a big fan of it, and their founder, Bryce, as well. CloseBot sends me an affiliate commission every month. It's a few $100. Like I'm not becoming a millionaire off of it. But you know what I have to do for that money every month? Nothing. Actually, that's not true. I have to click from PayPal deposit to bank account. So there's like 30 seconds of work each month. So reason I say that is if you have zero effort money, it just becomes more scalable. So one of the big principles of deal making is let's make money using other people's stuff, thereby creating. And I just realized for me is that once you learn how to sell, if you remove fulfillment from the equation, meaning you don't have to do shit, most times, like most people I've heard from people, they start selling agency services and then you get stressed out because you've made all these promises. You got to keep all these clients happy and you start throttling your own sales. Happens all the fucking time. You never have that problem in deal making. Like Ryan makes $5,200. The SEO guy and the website guy's got to fucking worry about the fulfillment. He's going to go make more sales, right? And nothing's stopping him from doing it again. That's the magic of deal making, is that like you don't create more work for yourself as you create more sales. And so it has like no upper limit. And also the opportunity is everywhere. I actually, I really realized how on the right track I was with this stuff. I met Kevin Harrington, the Shark Tank guy, at an event. So I was like a VIP at one of the events, and Kevin Harrington was there. And Kevin was talking about basically real world deal making. So the principle of deal making, remember I mentioned like there's the girls on one side and the boys on the other. It's people with audiences, could be like the boys, and people with products that go with those audience are like the girls. They should talk to each other, but they don't with the deal maker. So Kevin said in the early days of cable TV, all these new channels came out, but most of them didn't have shows. It's not like now where like, they had all day shows every day. So they would put on these bars and it would say, stand by for future programming or something like that. And they'd have these like rainbow bars, and at like 8 at night till 8 the next morning. And so he helped give birth to like the modern day infomercial. So he went to those TV stations. That's the audience owner, people with the viewers. And he said, I got an idea to make money for you. And I'd like to make you guys some money for all that unpaid time. And he said, oh, yeah? And by the way, he doesn't know anybody. This is a cold DM. But when you're trying to give people money, doors open a lot faster than when you're trying to get it. So he said, I'm trying to give you some money here. Like, I got a way for you to turn your empty time into cash. They said, come on down to HQ. We want to talk to you. He said he was going to a bunch of conferences. And he said he met the Ginsu knife guy. So some of you guys aren't old enough to remember, but there was a famous infomercial, Ginsu knives. They'd have these knives. The guy would cut them with a Coke can, cut them with a shoe. He would do all these dramatic demonstrations. That guy was doing sales one-to-one. So he would have at a conference, like 10 or 15 people would come by. He would cut the Coke can, cut the shoe, sell 5 knives. 10 minutes later, he'd get another 10, 15 people, cut the shoe, cut the Coke can, sell 5 knives. And he would just repeat that over and over. And Kevin was like, if you'd be interested in this, we could turn this into a video and we could sell knives round the clock automatically. And we'll just digitize your pitch. The guy's like, really? How do we sign up? So he said the first infomercial they ever made, they had a budget of $400 US, including cameras and equipment. So they made a very ghetto recording, and he went and published it in someone else's audience, the TV station. And he said every time a Ginsu knife sold, he got a cut of the sales. Not his TV station, not his audience, not his product. That is deal making. You standing in the middle of those two people, getting a cut of every sale. Ain't your audience, ain't your product, but you put them together. When you do that, that's how like you get closer to every day is payday, because there's no fulfillment. Like, don't matter if they sell 10 million knives. Kevin doesn't have to worry about warehousing and shipping and customer service and all the things that normally bog you down. That's the Ginsu knives guy's problem. So that's how I like to do shit these days. But that's a kind of a loaded question. Is CloseBot through text or DMs? I believe it can do both. Let me just, I'll get you a link. This is an affiliate link, but check it out. That's probably a better question for them. Most of our people are using it through GHL. So you send an outbound text through GHL, and then a lot of times clients will text you right back, creating a mountain of work to reply to those people, or CloseBot can just handle the back and forth. And we actually use it in some of our real estate stuff. Blew my fucking mind, because the person was like, I was looking at one of the replies and the person was said, oh, no hablo inglés, solo hablo español. Right? I don't speak English. I only speak Spanish. And CloseBot was like, no hay problema, hablo español también si quieres. It was like, no problem. I speak Spanish perfectly if you want to. Close the person in Spanish. And I was like, I didn't even know it could do that. I was like, that's fucking gangster. Yeah, Colin's talking about the classic Ginsu knife commercial. Yeah, if you're old enough, you'll remember it. I'm going to bounce after this question here, but if you guys got any more, we can post them in the group or set them up for next week. Paul says, what if the shoe stores completely ignore you? And is your shoe store course very comprehensive? I mean, it lays out how to do it. I actually think it's pretty normal for shoe stores to ignore you. And part of it is you just don't take it personally. They're busier than your average person. So I got to work with a shoe store. Like, I was involved with an industry association, and they checked a lot of boxes. Pilma, as I mentioned. Pilma has a big event. That's a type of shoe store. They had a big podcast. That's another. They did workshops. They had a coaching program. They had a mastermind. They had retreats. Like they did a lot of the various things that would be called a shoe store. They had a community on LinkedIn. I'm working with the founder, Ken. I'm working with him hand in hand. Like I'm his right hand man helping him build this thing. And I'd send him like an idea like 5 times and text him and email him. And then we'd get together on Friday. We were both in South Carolina in Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle. And I'd be like, Ken, what's up, man? Like you've been ignoring my messages and texts. And he went, really? I didn't see any messages and texts. And I'd be like, you didn't see any message and text? Like, dude, I messaged you 6 fucking times. And he went, look at my phone. And he showed me how many client messages and shit. And he was like, you see how I missed this shit? And I went, oh, okay. All right. I'm not offended anymore. So shoe stores do ignore you, but they usually ignore you because they're just fucking busy and they got shit going on. So when shoe stores are busy and they got shit going on, like I just message them again and don't take it personally. But flip side of that is when you get in their flow, like holy shit, they can blow your stuff up. Anyways, just a quick little announcement before we head out. I'm going to bounce right here just so you guys know, but we got an upcoming workshop in the Los Angeles. For those of you guys who want to close your shit in video, I suggest you check it out. Come hang out in person and come hang, like build the shit. That's a workshop style. We're going to get something done. And like, I'm telling you, the ability to make offers and demonstrate them is one of the most useful skills you will ever come up with. It'll pay you 100x. It's not just useful in terms of selling agency services. You can sell a lot of other shit, other people's shit, affiliate shit, getting partnerships. Like it's all the same kind of skill. And also like, I didn't realize everything is an offer, even with my kids. Like if I just say to my kids, hey, my little guy, Franquito, say, hey, Franquito, go for your nap. That's a bad offer. You know what he'll say? I don't want you. Yeah. But if I say, if I improve the offer, if I say, hey, Franquito, if you go for your nap right now, daddy's going to take you to a park later. It's a limited time offer. Only works if you go to sleep right now. Then I'll bring you to the park. He says, you bring me to the park if I go to sleep? That's right. Go for a nap. Daddy's got some shit to do. He goes, okay. And he lays down, right? I get kids to cooperate because I know how to make offers, right? So it's one of those, it has a very far-reaching skill set. So you guys are going to learn the magic of that, the ins and outs, and we're going to build it live and you can ask all the questions. And, I'm going to have some cool people there as well. So we're about half sold out, 8 weeks ago, and I plan on selling it out. So come hang out. What is the best method for shoe stores to see my message? Whatever media they most use. It's different for all of them, but I just look where they're most active, contacting them where they're most active. Sounds like a salesman, maven, connector combination from Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point. I haven't read The Tipping Point. I know Malcolm Gladwell, but I'm sure there's a lot of overlap. I've been meaning to read The Tipping Point, but I just never got to it. But I'll be there, says Colin. Hell yeah, motherfucker. Anyways, I'm going to bounce here. Call it a happy Monday. We've been going 2.5 hours, and I got to fix my lighting. I feel like I'm in the dark, but we'll have that fixed for next time. Appreciate you guys. Much love. Happy Monday. May the Triforce be with you. Appreciate you guys.